Chapter 1607. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a strange light. Wouldn't the Liefire Empyrean bring him there? He knew that what Beauty Xiao said might be the truth. If Yi Qinyu was really brought away from the Liefire Palace, the Liefire Empyrean would surely be wary of him, and wouldn't give him a chance to display his brilliance. This was especially so in the lifelong realm. Standing up, Qin Wentian cast a glance at the beautiful woman lying lazily on the bed. "I'll return first. Inform me if there's anything you need." As he spoke, he put on his robes and directly departed. Beauty Xiao instantly sat up when she saw this scene. That alluring figure of hers trembled slightly from anger. Her eyes filled with hidden bitterness as she stared at Qin Wentian's departing back. This bastard, he was truly a bastard. He left just like that? But after that she giggled, exuding boundless charm. She slowly stood up. Her devilish figure was enough to cause countless females to be envious. Her hands gently caressed her soft and supple body as a charming smile appeared on her face. Sadly, no one could see how alluring she was right now. After Qin Wentian left, he didn't think too much about what happened between him and Beauty Xiao. This was purely an accident and he had no feelings for Beauty Xiao. In addition, Beauty Xiao was the one who took the initiative. He didn't feel that he owed her anything. After several months passed, an order was sent over from the Liefire Palace. The Liefire Empyrean would bring the various monarchs and governors to Lifelong City. However, the northern city regions weren't stable, and they told Qin Wentian to stay here. Next 100 years, they would bring him to the Lifelong Realm to pay a visit to the Realm Lord. As to why they sent this order, it was because according to the usual practice they had to bring Qin Wentian there. They naturally wouldn't be able to hide this from Qin Wentian. Not long after this order was passed down, another piece of news came from Beauty Xiao's side. Yi Qinyu would be transferred from the Liefire prison to the Lifelong Realm. As for the specifics, Beauty Xiao wasn't too sure. After Qin Wentian learned of this, he felt that time was pressing. Today, Ditian came to the Jialan clan for a visit. Jialan City of the Jialan clan received Ditian. His daughter Jialan Choyue accompanied him. "Grandmaster D, why are you so free to pay a visit to my Jialan clan?" Jialan Cheng smiled. His tone was extremely friendly. "I heard that the once 100 years lifelong banquet is about to begin. The lifelong realm lord would summon the 9 world palace lords as well as the various monarchs and governors. At that time, many peak powers of the lifelong realm would also head there to pay a visit to the lifelong realm lord. I wonder if the Jialan clan will head there as well?" Ditian asked. "Oh." Helan Cheng's eyes flashed with a strange light as he asked, "Grandmaster D is right. It's just that Grandmaster D is interested in this matter? Liefire City is too small. I wish to head out to broaden my horizons and see if there's a chance for my Emperor Pavilion to expand there as well." Ditian slowly spoke. Helan Cheng stared at Ditian. "I didn't expect Grandmaster D to be so ambitious. Since this is the case, why don't Grandmaster D accompany us there? My Jialan clan has a spatial teleportation array that can directly connect to Lifelong City. For this point, only the Liefire Palace and my Jialan clan can do it. Since this is the case, ID will have to thank you." Ditian nodded. "Grandmaster D, don't forget about the Emperor-ranked weapons you promised me." Jialan Choyue, who was at the side, gently smiled. She who was noble and dignified exuded a unique charm when she smiled. "Miss Choyue, if there's anything you need, feel free to look for me anytime." Ditian smiled and nodded. "Right." Jialan Choyue's smile was gentle and beautiful. Ditian bid his farewell, and after he left, Helan Cheng turned to Jialan Choyue and asked, "Choyue, what do you think of Ditian? He's mysterious and extremely intelligent. Although he seems easygoing and harmless, he's actually an extremely dangerous character. As for his weaponsmithing prowess, there's naturally no need to talk about it. But what I'm truly curious about is Grandmaster D's combat prowess. He rose to fame through weaponsmithing, and the only time he fought was in the Yen clan. That battle was merely a battle of sparring using formations, but he was able to use absolute strength to suppress characters at a higher level than him. Although it's a battle of formations, it's also a battle of strength. It's hard to guess his combat prowess." Jialan Choyue slowly spoke. With regards to Ditian's combat prowess, many people would habitually ignore it. His proficiency in weaponsmithing was sufficient to conceal it, causing others to not pay attention to him. He had even rejected Liu Feibai's challenge before, causing him to be criticized by others. But could his combat prowess really be that weak? Being able to rise up in such a short period of time, how can he be truly harmless? When he first appeared, he used the identity of a formations grandmaster, helping the various major and minor powers to inscribe formations, not rejecting anyone. When the time was ripe, he directly entered the Yen clan and caused the Yen clan's reputation to hit rock bottom with a single battle. After that, there were many dangers, including Xiaoho's attempt to kill the Emperor Pavilion, but all of them were resolved by him. After the ancient river auction house was sealed, he then rapidly entered the northern city regions. His speed and timing are truly astonishing. Helan Chung slowly spoke. Choyue, this man and Qin Wentian are both truly outstanding characters. If they grow up, they would surely be able to cause a storm in the lifelong realm. Father, why do you think so highly of them? Jalan Chuyue asked. Don't you feel that Qin Wentian is too arrogant? When he first assumed office, he slew his 3 vice-generals. In the battle at the ancient river auction house, he killed over 10 immortal emperors, including several peak-stage immortal emperors, shocking the northern city regions. Leaving aside the fact that he already has the qualifications to be arrogant, just by talking about how he endured for the past 50 years, he had no choice but to do so. He wanted to let the Livefire Empyrean see that although your talent is extraordinary, even Father has no choice but to say that both of them are much more outstanding compared to you. Helan Chung laughed. It's still unknown whether Qin Wentian is a friend or foe. Ditian, don't think that he has already chosen to stand together with our Jiaolong clan. However, both of them are worthy targets for us to recruit. If Chuyue likes them, maybe even your grandfather might agree. Father, what nonsense are you talking about? Jalan Chuyue glared at her father. Helan Chung laughed. Fine, I won't say any more. You will naturally be the one to choose your Dao companion. Father only feels that in the younger generation of Livefire City, it's even harder to find someone more outstanding than these two. Jalan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed. Many people flashed through her mind. After that, she mumbled, there aren't any in Livefire City, but what about Lifelong City? Helan Cheng's eyes flashed with sharpness when he heard his daughter's words. Lifelong City? Indeed, that place was the true gathering place for geniuses. The true peak powers were all located in Lifelong City, and many of them were existences on the same level as their Jiaolong clan. The Jiaolong clan was a peak power in the lifelong realm, and had once contended against the Livefire Empyrean for the position of World Palace Lord. Their power naturally wasn't limited to Livefire City. If not, how could they contend against the Livefire Empyrean? Although the Jiaolong clan was a power that originated from Livefire City, there was also a Jiaolong clan in the largest city of the lifelong realm, Lifelong City. In addition, the Jiaolong clan in Lifelong City had already grown extremely powerful after countless years of development. In Lifelong City, the teleportation array of the Jiaolong clan lit up with a dazzling light. After that, a group of experts appeared. It was none other than Jiaolong Yuntian and his juniors from Livefire City. Clan leader. Many people were waiting here respectfully. When they saw their arrival, all of them bowed. Big brother. An imposing-looking middle-aged man walked over and called out to Jiaolong Yuntian. This man was none other than the second son of Jiaolong Yuntian's generation, Jiaolong Yunhai. His strength was extremely tyrannical, and right now, the people in Lifelong City had always been managed by his faction. Uncle. There were several immortal emperors beside Jiaolong Yunhai. There were both males and females. All of them greeted Jiaolong Yuntian. Choyue has already grown so beautiful. Jiaolong Yunhai smiled at Jiaolong Chuyue. I pay my respects to second grandpa. Jiaolong Chuyue bowed slightly. You are already at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. Your grandpa often praises you. It has been a long time since I last saw you. As expected, not only are you as beautiful as a celestial maiden, your cultivation base hasn't fallen behind at all. It's time for you to find a good family with an outstanding background. Jiaolong Yunhai laughed. Jiaolong Yuntian frowned. The people around him all had strange expressions on their faces when they heard this. Let's go, the banquet has already been prepared. Big brother, it has been a long time since we drank together. Jalan Yunhai laughed. This time around, in order to welcome Big Brother, I have prepared many good wines and even invited some esteemed guests to accompany us. Jalan Yuntian nodded. Is father doing well? Old man has always been busy with his cultivation. It has been a long time since I contacted him. Big Brother, you should know how important this step is to him. Jalan Yunhai spoke. Their father was none other than the person who fought against the Livefire Empyrean for the position of the Livefire Empyrean back then. Jalan Yuntian didn't say anything. Behind him, a young man beside Jalan Chua glanced at the person beside Jalan Chua and asked, Little Sister Chua, this person seems very unfamiliar. He isn't someone from our Jalan clan, right? This is Grandmaster D, a guest of our Jalan clan. Since we are traveling together, we decided to come here together. Jalan Choyue replied. Grandmaster? The young man laughed. The title of Grandmaster isn't something everyone can use. I wonder what sort of Grandmaster D is? Grandmaster in formations, Grandmaster in weaponsmithing, Jalan Choyue calmly replied. Her voice filled with unhappiness. After all, Ditian was her guest and the words of the young man were filled with disdain. Oh, in Livefire City, as long as one knows a little about formations and weaponsmithing, one can be considered a Grandmaster? The young man laughed. In Lifelong City, those who can be referred to as Grandmasters are all extraordinary characters. What do you mean by that? Jalan Choyue frowned as she coldly asked. Little Sister Chua, don't be angry. I'm just casually saying it, I don't mean anything by it. Grandmaster Weaponsmithing is one of the guests my grandfather invited today. At that time I can seek guidance from that Grandmaster. The young man laughed. Qin Wentian, who was at the side, was wearing a mask. His eyes gleamed. Seems like the powerful Jalan clan wasn't that united internally. Naturally, his target for this trip wasn't the Jalan clan but the lifelong St. Hall instead. As for the masked him right now, it was his true self Qin Wentian and not his avatar Ditian. After changing into Ditian's robes and using a sealing treasure to seal his aura, as long as he didn't break the seal and release his aura, no one would be able to discover it. Chapter 1608. Qin Wentian quietly stood there. Although Jalan Yuntian was the clan leader, he knew that the true controller was none other than Jalan Yuntian's father. That old ancestor of the Jalan clan had once fought against the Livefire Empyrean for the position of clan leader. If it wasn't for such a character existing, what could the Jalan clan use to contend against the Livefire Empyrean? Jalan Yuntian was the eldest son and was in charge of Livefire City. As for the Jalan ancestor, he brought his second son along to establish a foothold in Lifelong City. Hence, Qin Wentian could faintly guess the origin of the internal conflicts in the Jalan clan. Maybe, the people of Jalan Yunhai's bloodline were no longer willing to submit to Jalan Yuntian as the clan leader. This guest of his could be said to have been caught in the crossfire. It wasn't good for them to directly use Jalan Yuntian's bloodline to speak, yet they pointed the spearhead at him. However, this seemed to be a matter between juniors. Jalan Yunhai pretended that he didn't hear it. Jalan Chuyue's beautiful countenance flashed with anger. She who was cold naturally exuded a Jalan aura. Jalan Skywolf, Grandmaster D is a guest. You should show some respect. Little Sister Choyue must have misunderstood. It's extremely normal for Grandmasters to seek guidance between each other. How would there be any disrespect? The young man casually spoke. He then glanced at Qin Wentian. Grandmaster D, what do you think? He emphasized the word Grandmaster, as though he was intentionally mocking D Tian. Qin Wentian's eyes outside the black mask were extremely cold. He calmly glanced at Jalan Skywolf as he asked, Are you talking to me? Jalan Skywolf started. He then smiled. Grandmaster is truly interesting. I'm naturally talking to you. Oh, Qin Wentian nodded. That would depend on the person seeking guidance from me. Just like what you said, not everyone can be called a Grandmaster. Hence, not everyone can seek guidance from me. Similarly, not everyone has the qualifications to speak to me. As he spoke, he cast an indifferent glance at Jalan Tianlang before shifting his gaze away. His gaze contained a cold mockery. Jalan Skywolf's gaze froze. He was actually stunned by Qin Wentian's words. After he recovered, a strange smile suddenly appeared on his face as he spoke. I've long heard that some grandmasters have strange temperaments and are extremely arrogant. Now that I've met them for myself, they truly live up to their reputation. In the end, they only came from a place like Livefire City. With that, he just smiled coldly and didn't look at Qin Wentian again. Jialan Chuyue didn't bother about it anymore. She glanced at Qin Wentian and transmitted her voice. Grandmaster D, I'm sorry. It's fine. Qin Wentian smiled as he glanced at Jialan Chuyue. That flawless countenance attracted the attention of many from the younger generation. Although they were related by blood, they still couldn't help but to steal a few more glances at such a beautiful woman. Jialan Chuyue, who had the title of the #1 beauty in the northern regions of Livefire City, was undoubtedly the #1 beauty in the entire Jialan clan. Not long after, everyone arrived at the spacious banquet area. The banquet had long been prepared and many people were already seated. All of them were extremely powerful characters, and with a single glance, almost all of them were at the immortal emperor realm. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He silently mused that, as expected of the most flourishing city in the lifelong realm, Lifelong City, this place was the absolute center of the lifelong realm. Most probably, ordinary immortal emperors wouldn't have the qualifications to be arrogant here. Numerous gazes turned towards Jialan Yuntian and his group. The gazes of the older generations were mostly on Jialan Yuntian, while the gazes of the younger generations instantly locked onto Jialan Chuyue. Beautiful women would always attract the attention of others. This was especially so for a beauty like Jialan Chuyue. Big brother, today I've invited some experts from the peak powers of the lifelong realm to come and hold a welcoming banquet for Big brother. These are experts from the Xinyuan clan. They are one of the most ancient aristocratic clans in the lifelong realm. Their ancestor once fought alongside the lifelong realm lord, and now, the Xinyuan clan controls an incomparably vast divine weapon trading industry. In this lifelong city, the Xinyuan clan is ranked #1 in terms of divine weapon trading. This is an elder of the Xinyuan clan, Xinyuan Hao. Jialan Yunhai pointed to a middle-aged man as he introduced him to Jialan Yuntian. Jialan Yuntian's expression stiffened as he glanced at Xinyuan Hao. Although he had always been guarding Livefire City and was in charge of the foundation of the Jialan clan, as the clan leader of the Jialan clan, how could he not know about the Xinyuan clan? This Xinyuan clan was definitely a supreme aristocratic clan. To think that Jialan Yunhai actually had a connection with them. Elder Xinyuan. Jialan Yuntian politely nodded his head. However, Xinyuan Hao merely sat there and nodded his head in response. Ditian instantly understood the disparity between them. Lifelong City was as expected of the #1 city in the lifelong realm. The aristocratic clans here were so powerful that it was suffocating. An elder of the Xinyuan clan already had a status that wasn't inferior to Jialan Yuntian, the clan leader of the Jialan clan. There's a Xinyuan palace out of the 9 world palaces. Could it be that it has a connection with the Xinyuan clan? Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Jialan Chua as he asked. The ancestor of the Xinyuan clan once fought alongside the Realm Lord. The Xinyuan Palace of the 9 World Palaces was specially established for the sake of the Xinyuan clan. In addition, the Xinyuan Palace is passed down from generation to generation. It isn't something the Livefire Empyrean can compare to, Jialan Chuyue replied, but her brows were tightly furrowed. Jialan Yunhai actually had a connection with the Xinyuan clan? She faintly felt that something was wrong. Besides Xinyuan Hao, there was a young immortal emperor. His eyes flashed with a dazzling light as he stared at Jialan Chuyue. Jialan Chuyue calmly glanced at him and nodded her head slightly. However, she only saw that the young man didn't seem to feel awkward at all. He only had an evil smile on his face, causing Jialan Chuyue to feel a little uncomfortable. Those over there are people from the Sword Spirit sect. I'm sure Big Brother has heard of them before. Jialan Yunhai pointed to a major power as he laughed. Unparalleled sword control, the Sword Spirit sect. Jialan Yuntian spoke. An old man sitting there smiled and nodded. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he nodded. That's right. Jialan Yunhai laughed. He then pointed to another direction and spoke. Those are people from the Heaven Punishment sect. Jialan Yuntian's expression froze again. It was another peak power. Today Jialan Yunhai invited the 3 peak powers of the lifelong realm over. His intentions were definitely not simple. The people from the Jialan clan who came from Lifefire City all discovered something strange. Although they saw people from the three peak powers, their hearts weren't at ease at all. Yunhai, you said that Jialan Chuyue of the Jialan clan is a beauty that can topple empires and has shocking talent. Before this seat didn't believe you, but from the looks of it now, it seems like what you said is true. An elder of the Xinyuan clan, Xinyuan Hao, smiled at Jialan Chuyue. His gaze was like he was looking at his daughter-in-law. During these years, the Jialan clan grew stronger and stronger. I didn't expect that not only in Lifelong City, there would be such extraordinary characters in Lifefire City as well. The old man from the Sword Spirit sect also laughed. Qin Wentian discovered something interesting. These people all had young immortal emperors with them, and their gazes were all filled with a scorching heat when they stared at Jialan Chuyue. In that case, the meaning of this banquet was clear even without words. Jialan Yunhai wasn't arranging a welcoming banquet for Jialan Yuntian and the others. This was clearly a matchmaking banquet for Jialan Chuyue. The countenances of Jialan Yuntian and the others all changed. Jialan Yunhai smiled. Big brother, quickly take your seats. We are preparing to start the banquet. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. These people were all here for Jialan Chuyue. There was no need for him to get involved in this. He smiled and clasped his hands to Jialan Yuntian. Since we've already arrived at Lifelong City, Senior Jialan ID will bid my farewell first. Jialan Yuntian, Jialan Chuyue. And the others all started, but they didn't say anything. Ditian originally only wanted to follow the Jialan clan to Lifelong City. Now that the Jialan clan was in such a state, it was only normal that he wanted to leave. Grandmaster D, didn't you want to seek guidance on the Tao of weaponsmithing? In the Xinyuan clan there are true supreme weaponsmiths. Why is Grandmaster D in such a hurry to leave? Jialan Skywolf turned his head and glanced at Qin Wentian as he calmly spoke. Qin Wentian frowned. This Jialan Skywolf actually didn't want to let him go? Grandmaster D, the Xinyuan clan is a peak power. Although I believe in your weaponsmithing abilities, it's best if you don't get involved in this. After all, it wouldn't be good for you to offend the Xinyuan clan. Jialan Chuyue's voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, reminding Qin Wentian in private. Farewell. Qin Wentian replied. After that, he glanced at Jialan Skywolf with disdain before turning and preparing to leave. Jialan Skywolf, what's going on? Someone from the Xinyuan clan asked. Nothing much. Earlier, this man claimed to be a weaponsmithing grandmaster. I told him that there are true supreme weaponsmithing grandmasters here, and not everyone has the qualifications to be called a grandmaster. And the truth is indeed as I said. Some of the grandmasters actually fled with their tails between their legs. I wonder how little sister Chuyue got acquainted with them. Jialan Skywolf casually spoke. Jialan Skywolf, don't go overboard. Jialan Chuyue frowned. She was already extremely unhappy with Jialan Yunhai's arrangements. Jialan Yunhai wanted to make use of her. Once the descendants of these peak powers really fell in love with her, Jialan Yunhai would surely use his clan's connections to make her compromise, right? And although these people were all characters from the peak powers, they were merely descendants of elders. Clearly, they didn't fit the criteria of a Tao companion in her heart. Did I say something wrong? Jialan Skywolf started. After that, he smiled at Qin Wentian, who turned around. Qin Wentian. Grandmaster Qin Wentian, what do you think? Qin Wentian's eyes suddenly flashed with an evil smile. He slowly walked back to Jialan Chuyue's side, and under the bewildered gaze of Jialan Skywolf, Qin Wentian stretched out his hand and actually held Jialan Chuyue's hand. At this instant Jialan Chuyue's body trembled, but for some reason, she actually didn't reject and allowed Qin Wentian to hold her hand. A charming smile even appeared on her face as she lightly leaned on Qin Wentian's arm. At this moment, the gazes of everyone froze there, staring at the charming Jialan Chuyue. Chapter 1609. Jialan Chuyue was originally already extremely beautiful. She was the #1 beauty in the northern city regions of Lifefire City. Even in the lifelong realm, she could be considered a peak-tier beauty. She who was elegant and dignified was actually acting like a little bird right now. Her beautiful eyes shone brightly as a radiant smile appeared on her face. Humph, an elder of the Xinyuan clan, Xinyuan Hao, suddenly snorted coldly. His expression turned exceptionally unsightly as he coldly stared at Jialan Yunhai. The experts from the Sword Spirit sect and Heaven Punisher sect all had unsightly expressions on their faces. This caused the expression of Jialan Yunhai, who hadn't been paying attention to the situation here, to change. Today he held a banquet to welcome Jialan Yuntian, but he truly wanted to make use of Jialan Chua. He wanted Jialan Chua to form a marriage alliance with the Three Peak Powers. If someone from the Three Peak Powers fell in love with Jialan Chua, he could ask his father for her. Jialan Yunhai's side might object, but for the sake of the clan, his father would definitely consider the bigger picture. Jialan Yuntian's influence would gradually weaken, and the position of the clan leader should belong to him. Big brother, when has Chua ever been betrothed to someone? Jialan Yunhai stared at his elder brother as he asked. Jialan Yuntian coldly glanced at him. Chua's marriage is something that she can decide herself. What's there to say about betrothing? Jialan Yunhai's expression didn't change. He then asked, "This Grandmaster D, why haven't I heard Big Brother mention him before? Which peak power is he from?" Grandmaster D is a peak stage weaponsmith grandmaster. He established his own Emperor Pavilion. There's no need for him to be from any peak power. Jialan Yuntian coldly spoke. A mid-stage immortal emperor established his own power? A mocking laugh rang out. It was none other than the young man sitting beside Xianyuan Hao. My Xianyuan clan has many grandmaster weaponsmiths, including many peak stage ones. Before this, I heard from Jialan Skywolf that you want to seek guidance from him? Xianyuan Hao also spoke. He who sat there exuding an arrogant attitude, his eyes filled with disdain when he glanced at Qin Wentian. That's just someone who thinks he's infallible. I didn't say that I wanted to ask for advice, and I don't intend to ask Xianyuan to prove anything. It's a very boring thing in itself. Qin Wentian faintly spoke. However, the young man beside Xianyuan Hao actually stood up and smiled. I feel that this is quite interesting. I have an emperor-ranked weapon with me that was forged by a grandmaster weaponsmith of my Xianyuan clan. Since you claim to be a grandmaster weaponsmith, why don't you take out the weapon you are most satisfied with? As the sound of his voice faded before Qin Wentian could reply, a terrifying aura gushed forth. The young man from the Xianyuan clan had an evil smile on his face as he took out a divine weapon. Emperor light shone resplendently as astral light cascaded down from the heavens. In an instant, a heaven-rending aura gushed forth from the weapon, exuding an aura that could split the heavens and earth apart. The divine weapon in the hands of the young man was merely a ring, and he directly wore it on his finger. He took a step forward and smiled at Qin Wentian. Grandmaster D, what do you think of this divine weapon? As he spoke, he stretched out his finger and pointed it at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian smiled. He took out a glove and similarly, a terrifying sealing light descended from the sky, as well as a supremely powerful suppressive law energy. He wore the glove on his hand and stretched it out. In an instant, boundless sealing energy gushed forth, resembling an incomparably terrifying sealing palm imprint. Qin Wentian clenched his fist and instantly, the heaven-rending law energy was sealed away. The evil smile on the face of the young man instantly vanished. His steps also stiffened. Qin Wentian smiled and continued to clench his fist. The body of the young man trembled violently, as though he was being held down by a formless sealing palm. The power of the divine weapon ring in your hand isn't bad. Just a random divine weapon you took out could already unleash such might. You even needed this seat to personally take out a divine weapon to suppress it. The Xianyuan clan truly lives up to their reputation. Qin Wentian replied. Although it was a compliment, it caused the young man to feel his face burning up. He felt extremely ashamed. The eyes of the people in the surroundings all gleamed with sharpness. Jialan Chua stared at Qin Wentian in bewilderment. After that, a bright light flashed in her eyes. Although this fellow took out many divine weapons to auction in Lifire City, it seemed like he still had many good items in his hands and was reluctant to take them out. Grandmaster truly lives up to his reputation. Is this glove truly the work of a grandmaster? Xianyuan Hao stood up, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. The Xianyuan clan was famed for the trading of divine weapons. Xianyuan Hao was naturally an expert in this aspect. If this glove was truly forged by Qin Wentian, he was definitely a terrifying weaponsmithing genius. Naturally, His weaponsmithing abilities are unrivaled in Lifefire City. Jalan Chuyue spoke. If Grandmaster is free, feel free to pay a visit to my Xianyuan clan in the future. Xianyuan Hao instantly became more polite to Di Tian. After that, he glanced at his son and spoke, "Why are you still not apologizing to the Grandmaster? Step down." The expression of that young man stiffened as an unnatural expression appeared on his face. But when he saw the sharpness in Xianyuan Hao's eyes, he still bowed. "Grandmaster Di, sorry for the offense." "No worries." Qin Wentian casually spoke, silently musing that none of these people were simple characters. Jalan Yunhai's expression changed. He stepped out and spoke, "What are you all standing for? Grandmaster Di, please be seated." Qin Wentian glanced at Jalan Yunhai, feeling that it was ridiculous in his heart. He then coldly spoke, "It's fine, I still have things I need to do. I won't be staying here any longer. Farewell." Jalan Yunhai's expression changed. Qin Wentian couldn't be bothered with him and directly turned to leave. Jalan Chuyue still held onto his hand as she spoke in a light voice, "Let me send you off." As the two of them walked out, a calm voice rang out, "Hold on." Qin Wentian turned his head only to see a terrifying gaze shooting over. It was like countless formless swords directly piercing through Qin Wentian's eyes, piercing into his soul. The Sword Spirit sect was unrivaled in sword control. They could control swords of souls, killing people formlessly. Qin Wentian's gaze abruptly turned incomparably terrifying. With a single glance, the holy sword intent pierced through that expert from the Sword Spirit sect. A scream of misery rang out as that expert from the Sword Spirit sect covered his eyes with his hands. Qin Wentian snorted. He then turned and continued walking out. That expert from the Sword Spirit sect stood up, only to hear Xianyuan Hao speaking, "Can't afford to lose?" That expert stiffened. After that, he slowly sat back down and stared at the young man beside him. That young man moved his hands away and slowly opened his eyes. Streams of blood flowed from them. His eyes were extremely terrifying. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian showing mercy, that expert would have already been blinded. This man is also proficient in soul attacks. The young immortal emperor's voice trembled. In that instant earlier, he felt as though he had experienced something extremely terrifying. Jalan Yuntian's eyes flashed with a dazzling light. This Grandmaster Di was truly mysterious and unfathomable. Seems like the matter today might not be a bad thing. He glanced in the direction Qin Wentian left. When he saw Qin Wentian and Jalan Chuyue walking side by side, a faint smile flashed in his eyes. As for Jalan Skywolf, his countenance had already turned ashen. Only now did he know that the character he was mocking was far more outstanding compared to him. Qin Wentian suppressed the Xianyuan clan in weaponsmithing, and defeated the Sword Spirit sect in soul attacks. As for him, from the start until now, Qin Wentian had never seriously glanced at him. Only now did he know that Qin Wentian's gaze was filled with disdain. Jalan Chuyue sent Qin Wentian to the exit of the Jalan clan before she released her hand. She smiled at Qin Wentian and spoke, "Grandmaster Di, have you taken enough benefits? I'm doing this to help you. In that situation, if it wasn't for me, how awkward would it be for you?" Qin Wentian shrugged. In that case I really have to thank you." Jalan Chuyue rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian, exuding a unique flavor. "Sure." Qin Wentian seriously nodded. Jalan Chuyue didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so shameless. Her beautiful eyes widened as she stared at him. After that she smiled. "In that case, how does Grandmaster Di want this little girl to thank you? Why don't you devote your life to me?" A strange look appeared in Qin Wentian's eyes as he smiled at Jalan Chuyue. He didn't expect that this #1 beauty of the Jalan clan would actually have such a mischievous side. Seems like the external appearance of everyone might not be their true selves. In that instant earlier, Jalan Chuyue actually no longer had any wariness in her heart towards him. If not, she wouldn't have made such a joke. This caused Qin Wentian to feel a little strange. What if she knew that he was using her in the future? What would she think? "Since you are such a beauty, I shall accept your invitation." Qin Wentian smiled. Jalan Chuyue glared at Qin Wentian, but there was also a smile on her face. She surveyed Qin Wentian. "You truly have many secrets on you. Lu Feibai challenged you but you rejected him. Right now, Even the immortal emperor of the Sword Spirit sect couldn't withstand a single glance from you. From this, one can very well imagine your strength. You are definitely not inferior to Lu Fei Bai. In addition to your weaponsmithing abilities, how many secrets do you have exactly? My greatest secret might be that I wanted to meet you and gain your trust. Qin Wentian smiled. Oh, in that case you have succeeded. Jialan Chuyue smiled. However, if you want to make me more trustworthy, can you take off your mask for me to take a look? You wouldn't be afraid that I'm too ugly, right? Qin Wentian laughed. Don't worry, if you really see my face, you would definitely not be an old man. Maybe I would be even more handsome than you imagine. You would surely be greatly shocked. Is that so? Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes blinked. She stared at Qin Wentian. You have already taken advantage of me, but you still don't want me to take a look? Isn't this unfair? No one has ever seen my face under the mask before. You want to be the first? This isn't enough. Qin Wentian had a devilish smile on his face. Jialan Chuyue seemed to have understood the hidden meaning in his words. Her face turned slightly red as a hint of shyness flashed in her eyes. This made her even more beautiful. Haha, I'm leaving. Qin Wentian laughed uproariously. After that, his silhouette flashed as he soared through the air. Staring at his departing back, Jialan Chuyue stood there in a daze. After that, a radiant smile appeared in her eyes, extremely beautiful. Chapter 1610. Lifelong City was very vast. As the center of authority of the Lifelong Realm, one could very well imagine how prosperous and powerful the Lifelong Realm Lord was. There was no suspense at all, this was the largest capital city in the Lifelong Realm. Every 100 years, the Lifelong Realm Lord would summon the World Palace Lords of the 9 World Palaces to the Lifelong Realm for a gathering. This was also the time when the 9 World Palaces would pay tribute. The monarchs of the 9 World Palaces would pay tribute once every 10 years, but the World Palace Lords would pay tribute once every 100 years. Every 100 years there would be a grand banquet. Not only would the experts of the 9 World Palaces gather in Lifelong City, some of the peak powers of the Lifelong Realm would also gather here to enjoy this banquet. And the time of this banquet would be 7 days later. Because of the upcoming grand banquet, Lifelong City was exceptionally lively during this period of time. All the major powers of the vast Lifelong Realm traveled millions of miles to attend the grand banquet. They didn't want to miss this opportunity. After all, to the people of the Lifelong Realm, being able to attend such a grand banquet was extremely beneficial to their state of mind. In addition, only those experts from the major powers had the qualifications to attend. The weaker characters from the minor powers had no way to travel across the boundless land to come here. They also didn't have enough resources to support them in using the teleportation array. The various governor manors in Lifelong City also started to get busy. This city was divided into 36 regions, and the governors of each region were all peak stage immortal emperors, standing at the absolute peak. As long as they could advance a step further, they would have the qualifications to contend for the position of World Palace Lord of the 9 World Palaces. In addition, there were 4 grand governors in Lifelong City. Each of them was in charge of the 9 regions, and their cultivation bases were all extremely terrifying. They were all existences on the same level as the World Palace Lords and were the protectors of this city. It was impossible for the Realm Lord to have the leisure time to manage the matters of Lifelong City. Naturally, the 4 grand governors would help him share the burden. If the cultivation bases of the 4 grand governors weren't high enough, how would they be able to intimidate the peak powers of Lifelong City? To be able to be called a peak power, it meant that there would be people at the Palace Lord level. These people were in the realm between immortal emperors and world overlords and could be called half-step world overlords. There were also people who referred to them as saints. This meant that from this step onwards, they had truly stepped into the realm of transcendence. From the celestial phenomenon realm to the immortal foundation realm, one would shed off their mortal body and become an immortal. Regardless of king or emperor, they would all be considered immortals. But if one transcends the immortal emperor realm, they would be above immortals, transforming into saints and could be referred to as sages. Qin Wentian walked on the bustling streets of Longevity City. At this moment he was wearing a simple white robe. There was not a speck of dust on his body. He took off his mask and restored his original appearance. At this moment, The entire space trembled as a terrifying aura gushed over. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared over, only to see a group of experts from afar. They were clad in silver-colored armor that was thin yet sharp, gleaming with a terrifying light. Beneath their feet, there were many fearsome flying-type demonic beasts. Everywhere they passed by, people would retreat. What a heroic army! Qin Wentian silently mused. The weakest among them was at the peak stage of the immortal king realm, and there were quite a few immortal emperors. Such an army could only be seen in Lifelong City. If it was in a small city, it would definitely be a shocking sight to behold. This army came to the side of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian retreated to the side as he inclined his head and stared at the people in the air. At this moment he only saw a cold and sharp gaze staring at him. This gaze was extremely terrifying, like a bolt of lightning that directly penetrated through Qin Wentian's eyes, as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Qin Wentian felt a surge of energy gushing over. He furrowed his brows, but when he saw the other party's expression turning even colder, he relaxed his brows and didn't mind it. The other party flew through the air in a grandiose manner, exuding a domineering aura, as though there was nothing in their eyes. How arrogant! Qin Wentian stared at the departing back view of the army as he murmured. The army of Governor Xiao is naturally arrogant. A person walked over from the side and laughed in a low voice. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over. It was an old man with a cultivation base at the initial stage of the immortal emperor realm. Old sir, the Governor Xiao you are talking about, are you referring to Governor Xiao Yu? Qin Wentian smiled as he asked. Naturally. As the youngest governor of Lifelong City, Xiao Yu is a supreme genius nurtured by a peak power, the Sword Spirit sect. His arrogance has long been famous throughout Lifelong City, and he has the qualifications to be arrogant. Even the Grand Governor would regard him highly. This Xiao Yu has never given face to the Grand Governor before. Even the Realm Lord once praised him, and the other governors he leads are all as arrogant as him. The old man laughed, counting the geniuses at the peak of Lifelong City. He seemed to be filled with pride as well. But I heard that this Governor Xiao Yu is not only arrogant, he can even be said to be extremely arrogant. Beauties are as common as the clouds around him, and back then, he even forced the young miss of a major power to become his concubine. Qin Wentian casually smiled. Evidently, after he came to the Lifelong Realm, he already had a certain level of understanding of the various powers and governors of the Lifelong Realm. Among the 36 governors, the news about Governor Xiao Yu gave him a deeper impression. This was a genius from the Sword Spirit sect. The Sword Spirit sect did their best to nurture him, and pushed him up to the position of a governor. Clearly, the Sword Spirit sect's purpose wouldn't stop there. They wanted to nurture a world palace lord of one of the 9 world palaces, and this was completely possible. All the major powers in the Lifelong Realm had done this before, and there were many who succeeded in doing so. Governor Xiao is a peak-level genius. Even the Realm Lord has paid attention to him before. It's only normal for beauties to be as common as the clouds around him. In fact, the various peak powers are even willing to send the young misses of their clans to the governor's manor, even willing to be his concubine. If they were ordinary beauties, Governor Xiao wouldn't even be interested in them. As for that matter, in the past, Governor Xiao took the initiative to pursue her. Although there were some conflicts, the other party eventually agreed to it. There's nothing wrong with that. The old man laughed. Seems like old man really admires Governor Xiao. Qin Wentian didn't say anything more and smiled. Naturally. Before Governor Xiao took over, he challenged the 36 governors and only lost 3 times. At that time, Governor Xiao had just broken through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm. Such a glorious battle record caused a huge commotion back then, shaking Lifelong City. You must know that among the 36 governors in Lifelong City, which one of them isn't a peak stage immortal emperor with peak-level combat prowess? The old man sincerely praised. An existence like Governor Xiao, I wonder when would he appear again? Right now, among the 9 governors of the northern regions, Governor Xiao is the number 1. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. He's truly extraordinary. After speaking, Qin Wentian turned and left. The old man stared at Qin Wentian's back view and laughed. Young man, don't be unconvinced. Maybe you feel that you are outstanding, but given how vast Lifelong City is, how many people like Governor Xiao are there? I'll remember old Sir's words. Qin Wentian laughed. Several days later, a huge commotion occurred in the 9 city regions of Lifelong City. 3 governors were challenged by the same person and all of them were defeated. This person was clad in white and was extremely handsome. What was even more terrifying was that his cultivation base was only at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. When he challenged the first governor, the governor didn't even bother to look at him and sent his vice-governor to fight him. However, the vice-governor was defeated miserably and was insta-defeated with a single move. After that, the second governor challenged him and was defeated by his opponent with absolute superiority. This news caused a huge commotion. After that, that mysterious expert continued to challenge the other 2 governors, and without any suspense, he easily defeated both of them. For a period of time, a huge wave of commotion arose in the northern regions. There were so many immortal emperors in Lifelong City. Although peak-stage immortal emperors were powerful, they weren't that rare. And for those who could become governors, they were all existences with extremely high combat prowess. Yet, 3 governors were actually defeated by a single person. Not only that, this person was also a mid-stage immortal emperor. Such news was given that the lifelong banquet was about to commence. How could this not cause a huge commotion? Many people guessed that the reason why such a powerful and mysterious character suddenly appeared was because he wanted to become famous. And the purpose of this person's fame was very simple. He wanted to attract the attention of the Realm Lord and the lifelong Saint Hall. If he could gain their favor, he would surely soar up to the clouds. Just when everyone was immersed in this news, a challenge letter was sent to the governor's manor of the first governor of the northern regions, Xiao Yu's manor. When this news circulated out, the entire northern regions were shaken. Only now did they understand that the true target of this mysterious challenger wasn't the 3 governors. His target was Xiao Yu, a peak-level genius of the sword spirit sect Xiao Yu. Back then, he was the same as this mysterious person. He relied on challenges to climb up, gaining the attention of the lifelong Saint Hall and became a governor. Right now, there was someone who consecutively defeated the 3 governors and even challenged Xiao Yu. His purpose was obvious. For a period of time, the entire northern regions were shaken. Today, outside the governor's manor Xiao Yu was in, many people gathered. They were all here to spectate this mysterious challenger's challenge. The gates of the governor's manor were wide open. Many people could see Xiao Yu sitting inside, hugging beauties on his left and right. All of them were peak-grade beauties that exuded a demonic aura, exuding a faint aura of nobility. These were all women of extraordinary birth, and were taken as concubines by Xiao Yu. Now that they were beautiful and elegant, many people silently mused that Xiao Yu truly knew how to enjoy life, nurturing his concubines to become so outstanding. And even now, Xiao Yu still didn't have a wife. He only took concubines. From his point of view, it was still too early for him to reach the pinnacle. In the future, his wife would surely be a peerless beauty. This Xiao Yu is truly confident. The people outside couldn't help but to sigh when they saw how much Xiao Yu was enjoying himself. Seems like Xiao Yu is filled with confidence. However, given his strength, although the challenger is mysterious, it would still be hard for him to win against Xiao Yu. The crowd discussed. At this moment, a white-robed figure flew over from afar. This person soared through the air with his hands behind his back, exuding an extremely carefree aura. His countenance was handsome and his entire being radiated an extraordinary aura. Compared to the supreme genius of the sword spirit sect, Xiao Yu, his aura wasn't in any way inferior at all. Chapter 16:11. He's here. The gazes of many turned to Qin Wentian, who was flying through the air, involuntarily comparing him to Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, a well-known character of the younger generation of the sword spirit sect. Many of the elders were already surpassed by him. Right now in the entire sword spirit sect, there weren't many who could win against him. He had a pair of sword-like brows and his eyes were filled with spirit. His countenance exuded a devilish charm. Although he knew that Qin Wentian had arrived, he didn't lift his head. He continued drinking wine and chatting with the 2 beauties beside him, as though he didn't care about this challenge at all. As for this mysterious challenger, up until now no one knew his name or which power he came from. It was as though he was a supreme genius who appeared out of nowhere in Lifelong City, wanting to use Xiao Yu to rise to fame. In reality, things were just as they guessed. Qin Wentian did indeed want to use Xiao Yu to rise to fame. He looked at the records of the 36 governors of Lifelong City, and knew that this Xiao Yu was a genius nurtured by the Sword Spirit sect. In addition, he didn't let down the expectations of the Sword Spirit sect. This man was extremely arrogant and had a high opinion of himself. Also, he was extremely lustful and had many concubines. He already had over 10 beauties, and all of them were daughters of major powers in Lifelong City. Ordinary women weren't even worthy to be his concubines. These were clearly his flaws. It was just that these flaws were masked by his radiance, becoming the topic of discussion instead. Under the radiance of the Sword Spirit sect and the youngest governor of Lifelong City, being arrogant and having so many beauties around him seemed to be an extremely normal thing. No one cared about this. This point could be seen from the conversation between the old man and Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian walked forward step by step, staring at Xiao Yu who was inside. His aura gushed forth. The intent of a challenge was self-evident. From the crowd far away, an old man stared at Qin Wentian in astonishment. He walked out and spoke, "It's really you." Qin Wentian turned his gaze over and smiled at the old man. So it turned out that this old man was none other than the immortal emperor he met back then. "Nice to meet you, sir," Qin Wentian said with a smile. The old man's eyes flashed as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Little fellow, although your talent is outstanding, and the fact that you were able to defeat 3 great commanders in a row shows your strength, you must not do something you cannot do just because you want to be famous. If you give up now and apologize to Commander Xiao, perhaps Commander Xiao will let you go." Challenging a commander wasn't a fun thing to do. A commander was the most powerful person in a region. How could they be challenged just because they wanted to? If you dared to challenge a commander's prestige, it was fine if you won. But if you lost, even if you were killed on the spot, no one would dare to say anything. You were the one who came to challenge them, so of course you had to pay the price. If not, wouldn't everyone dare to challenge you in the future? Such matters had happened many times in the history of the world of immortals. The challengers would obtain fame after defeating the commanders, but they didn't dare to do anything to the commanders. However, if they were defeated, the best outcome would be severe injuries. Getting their cultivation crippled or even being killed was an extremely common thing. "Many thanks, old sir, but I still wish to give it a try." Qin Wentian nodded and smiled at the old man. The old man glanced at Qin Wentian and sighed. "Why must you do this? You are all geniuses, stepping into the immortal emperor realm at such a young age. Is fame really so important to you guys?" Qin Wentian smiled and didn't say anything. Fame. What he needed the most now was fame. Fame in Lifelong City. The Lifefire Empyrean intentionally didn't bring him here. In that case, he could only come here himself. If not, he would forever be in a passive state, being toyed with by the Lifefire Empyrean. "There are many people who want to use me to gain fame. You are not the first. As to why I'm sitting here to meet you, it's purely because you defeated a few governors. Hence, I'm willing to meet you." Xiao Yu inclined his head, staring at Qin Wentian through the air. His voice was filled with arrogance and coldness. "Now I'll give you 2 choices. The first choice, because you provoked the governor's manor, you have to kowtow 3 times to the governor's manor. I'll pretend that nothing has happened and you can leave." "What about the second choice?" Qin Wentian asked. "You will die." Xiao Yu calmly spoke, his tone filled with an unquestionable tone. Truly as arrogant as the rumors say. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. "Maybe there's a third choice. You will lose." Xiao Yu, who was sitting there, had a mocking smile on his face. He would lose? A mid-stage immortal emperor challenging a peak-stage immortal emperor like him who had unparalleled combat prowess? This sounded like an extremely ridiculous joke. Most probably, the spectators were all waiting to see this joke. Only to see Xiao Yu hugging his concubine as he stood up. After that, his body slowly floated up into the air. The 2 concubines beside him also floated up. Also, these 2 beauties were actually at the immortal emperor realm. Although the immortal emperor realm wasn't considered high in Lifelong City, just these 2 concubines of Xiao Yu were already extremely shocking. The third choice? You want to use the method I used when I became famous to borrow my fame? The mocking smile on Xiao Yu's face was extremely demonic. To me it's the path to fame. But to you it's the path of seeking death. As the sound of his voice faded, he released the two concubines and stepped out. Killing you is as easy as lifting a hand. Governor Xiao, please guide me. Qin Wentian stood with his hands clasped behind his back as he calmly stared at Xiao Yu. A faint smile could be seen on his face, exuding a sense of lightness in his heart. The current him made people not dare to underestimate him. Judging from his demeanor, he should be from an extraordinary power. If not, he wouldn't have dared to stand here. However, the person he was facing was none other than Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu's aura suddenly changed. In just an instant, the pressure in the air intensified to the extreme, causing people to feel a sense of suffocation. It was as though the entire sky and earth was changing according to his aura. Such an ability was too terrifying. He didn't even move, but the pressure in the air had already turned incomparably heavy and sharp. His eyes abruptly trembled. In just an instant, two terrifying bolts of lightning appeared in the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian's eyes, aiming for Qin Wentian's soul. At this moment, Qin Wentian only felt as though a series of terrifying spatial swords had appeared in his soul, frenziedly shuttling about. His soul felt as though it was in the middle of a raging sea, akin to a lone boat, enduring the onslaught of the raging storm. Xiao Yu's eyes, his silhouette, were all imprinted into Qin Wentian's soul. There were very few people who were proficient in soul attacks, and those with such a powerful soul attack were even rarer. If it was an ordinary immortal emperor, their soul would have been instantly destroyed, dying in Xiao Yu's hands. However, Qin Wentian was also proficient in soul energy. In an instant, his soul boat seemed to have disintegrated, turning invisible and omnipresent. Even when that storm of swords frenziedly attacked, wanting to destroy everything, it still couldn't destroy Qin Wentian's soul. Qin Wentian's eyes also changed. His eyes became extremely demonic, as though they were revolving, containing an entire world within. In an instant, Xiao Yu felt himself falling into a dimension created by an eye technique. A corporeal sword of light shot through the air, piercing into his body. At the same time, a terrifying soul sword slammed into him. This gaze didn't merely contain a soul attack, it also contained an attack against the physical body. With a single glance, Qin Wentian's dual attacks arrived. Xiao Yu's sword-like brows twitched as a strange light flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so powerful. Not only was his soul so powerful, he could directly borrow the power of his soul to attack. Qin Wentian coldly laughed as he took a step forward. In an instant, the sky changed color as the boundless sword might directly broke through Qin Wentian's eye technique space. The power of the attack was so powerful that it directly penetrated through it. After that, a supremely powerful domain manifested. This was a supreme sword domain that could destroy the heavens and earth. Numerous ancient figures appeared, as though they were the souls of ancient sages. All of them exuded different types of sword might as they rushed towards Qin Wentian. In just an instant, the space Qin Wentian was in was about to be torn into nothingness, completely destroyed. Qin Wentian's body shimmered with an extremely resplendent spatial energy. It was as though he was in another dimension as a supreme sword domain manifested. Tens of thousands of swords whistled through the air, shooting straight towards the sword spirit Xiao Yu had summoned. For a period of time, this entire space transformed into a boundlessly violent world of swords. A scream of agony rang out. An expert who was closer to Qin Wentian was slashed by the sword intent. One of his arms was directly severed. Everyone had a look of terror on their faces as they frantically retreated. They discovered that the space outside the governor's manor had already transformed into a world of swords, surrounded by boundless tempests. Those who were too close to it would be directly killed. Only to see Xiao Yu's silhouette vanishing into thin air, fusing into the body of an ancient sage. That ancient sage's sword spirit directly appeared before Qin Wentian as boundless sword might akin to a raging tempest slashed downwards. The sword of lightning was too terrifying. It was as though the ancient sages had come back to life. Boundless light radiated from Qin Wentian. The sword soul of the ancient sages radiated boundless, might as it collided with the sword soul. Boundless light imprinted itself onto the sword soul, and after that, the sword soul was destroyed. However, this wasn't the end. On the other side, the sword soul of the ancient sages appeared. He exuded a supreme might, and with a step out, his sword might grew even stronger. With a few steps it felt like the entire world would be destroyed. Qin Wentian directly soared through the air, appearing before the ancient sages. A tyrannical fist of light blasted out, colliding head-on with the ancient sages, shattering the sword soul. However, this didn't end there. More and more sword souls were controlled by Xiaoyu, slaughtering their way over, wanting to kill Qin Wentian no matter what. Qin Wentian's emperor light shone resplendently as boundless astral light cascaded downwards. A divine fist of light blasted out. At this moment, it felt like there were millions of arms blasting out in different directions. The power of each attack was actually the same. Faint sounds of Sanskrit could be heard, akin to the might of a great Buddha. Rumble. The entire space seemed to be on the verge of shattering. All the sword souls were destroyed, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. This mysterious man was actually able to fight against Governor Xiaoyu. Chapter 16:12. The two of them in the air fought more and more violently. Xiaoyu was able to borrow the power of the sword souls of the ancient sages to fight for him. To many people, this was the first time they saw how powerful Xiaoyu was. Many people couldn't help but to sigh in admiration, as expected of a supreme genius of the sword spirit sect. Generations of sages of the sword spirit sect transformed into sword souls. Who could block him? However, what made everyone even more shocked was Qin Wentian's strength. This mysterious expert who defeated 3 governors consecutively, every attack of his would radiate boundless light. His entire person was enveloped by the light, resembling a true divinity. In fact, there were even traces of Buddhic light radiating from him, causing his demeanor to be extremely extraordinary. In addition, the radiant divine fists he unleashed could be dispersed, transforming into a myriad of fist lights. Each fist light was equally powerful, shattering the sword souls of the ancient sages summoned by Xiaoyu. Everyone could sense that Qin Wentian's cultivation base was even lower compared to Xiaoyu. He was only at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm, yet he could fight to such an extent. How terrifying was this? This indicated that if he broke through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, there was a very high possibility that Xiaoyu would be defeated by him. This indicated that in terms of combat prowess, his talent was much higher compared to the supreme genius of the sword spirit sect, Xiaoyu. After fighting for so long, he was still unable to defeat Qin Wentian. The light in Xiaoyu's eyes grew more and more terrifying. Both of his eyes shot out soul attacks, but Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with a resplendent light. He had no fear at all. Regardless of soul attacks or techniques, he had no way to defeat his opponent. This caused Xiaoyu to feel a sense of humiliation. A mid-stage immortal emperor actually fought to such an extent. How would everyone view him? When he thought of this, his killing intent grew even stronger. In the starry space, boundless astral light cascaded downwards as numerous sword souls descended from the heavens, directly entering his body. At this instant, Xiaoyu's entire being grew even more terrifying. His spirit and will were undergoing a transformation as the sword souls entered his body. His eyes gleamed with multiple rays of light, and the might exuding from his body actually skyrocketed, becoming much stronger. The heavens and earth were suffocating as his sword intent wanted to tear apart the heavens. Poochie sounds rang out unceasingly as screams of misery rang out. The spectators from afar were all filled with terror as they hurriedly retreated. At the same time, they unleashed their own energy to defend against the occasional strands of sword intent that permeated the battlefield. Just a strand of sword intent was enough to tear people apart. There were already several people whose arms were torn off or their bodies were pierced through, looking extremely miserable. Also, this was because they were spectating the battle. It wasn't intentionally done by either side. One could only say that Xiaoyu was no longer able to perfectly control his power, causing it to leak out. As Xiaoyu stepped out, his entire person transformed into a shadow. At this instant, Qin Wentian seemed to have fallen into a domain of sword souls. A world of sword souls. The entire world seemed illusory, and when Xiaoyu stepped out, his body seemed to have transformed into that of an ancient sage. A pair of gigantic faces appeared before Qin Wentian's eyes as boundless spatial light transformed into a formless killing intent that directly penetrated into Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian had no way to defend against this attack. It was simply too tyrannical. Qin Wentian inclined his head and saw Xiaoyu, who had transformed into an ancient sage. His entire body seemed to be coated in a layer of golden Buddhic light. His Buddha physique contained the Vajra holy will. In addition to the undying devil attribute of his body, he could be said to be indestructible and indestructible. Despite the terrifying sword intent piercing through his body, his eyes were still as sharp as ever. Lifting his palms, a gigantic palm imprint imbued with the power of light blasted forth, directly slamming down towards Xiaoyu's gigantic body. However, at this moment, Xiaoyu's body seemed to have transformed into an illusory form. That extremely powerful palm imprint of light merely passed through his body, unable to hit him at all. This scene caused Qin Wentian's countenance to freeze. No matter how powerful an attack was, what use was it if it couldn't hit the opponent? So this is Governor Xiaoyu's illusory body. It's too powerful. Although this mysterious expert is already terrifying enough, it's still impossible for him to defeat Xiaoyu. Although the spectators were in danger, none of them were willing to leave. Before this, they still thought that this would be a one-sided battle, and that the mysterious expert who challenged Xiaoyu wouldn't be a match for him. But now they were able to witness a battle between two supremely powerful immortal emperors. This trip was truly worthwhile. How can you defeat me? A tyrannical voice rang out from Xiaoyu's mouth. He stretched out his finger and blasted it towards Qin Wentian. Terrifying sword chi rivers manifested in this space, gushing forth, wanting to tear this entire space apart. When the sword chi river blasted into Qin Wentian's body, Qin Wentian's golden body crumbled unceasingly, unable to endure any longer. Qin Wentian's powerful life force aura gushed forth as an ancient tree of life enveloped him, allowing Xiaoyu's attack to penetrate him. The spectators only saw Qin Wentian radiating light, as though he was also an undying existence. How can you kill me? The light radiating from Qin Wentian was as bright as ever, illuminating the heavens and earth, transforming into boundless sword chi that shot towards Xiaoyu. There's nothing that is truly undying. As long as you are a human, you will die. Xiaoyu's voice was as tyrannical as ever. He walked towards Qin Wentian step by step, and with every step he took, the killing intent from the void grew stronger, wanting to shatter Qin Wentian's body, killing him completely. Even if Qin Wentian had an undying body, he could still kill him. Qin Wentian's white robes fluttered violently, emitting terrifying whistling sounds. Facing against Xiaoyu's tyrannical attack, not only did his aura not weaken, it grew even stronger instead. The light radiating from his body grew more and more resplendent. Finally, Xiaoyu's silhouette appeared before him as he stabbed out a finger towards the center of Qin Wentian's brows. At this instant, it was as though there were countless sword souls radiating from Xiaoyu's finger, capable of annihilating all existences. Nobody would be able to block such an attack. Rumble, a terrifying sonic boom rang out as Xiaoyu's attack pierced into the center of Qin Wentian's brows. The hearts of the spectators trembled. This time around, Qin Wentian would die for sure. No matter how powerful his undying body was, he wouldn't be able to block such a tyrannical attack. Only death awaited him. You are right, there's no such thing as an undying body. But if you want to see, even if you have an incorporeal body, you will still be annihilated. Qin Wentian's will transformed into a voice that reverberated through the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian grabbed out in the air as the supremely powerful god's hand transformed into a terrifying spatial vortex, enveloping Xiaoyu within it. Xiaoyu's body was about to dissipate into nothingness, yet Qin Wentian didn't attack him. He only focused his attacks on the spatial vortex in front of him, wanting to tear this entire space apart. In this space, even if you were in an incorporeal body, you would still be annihilated. The spatial vortex transformed into a tempest of destruction, unceasingly penetrating Xiaoyu's body. His body that resembled a sage from the past was trembling violently. Both his palms blasted out explosively as his eyes gleamed with a boundless killing intent, wanting to annihilate Qin Wentian. Boom! The spatial tempest grew even stronger. Tyrannical light energy, devil energy, spatial energy and sword energy, wanting to annihilate all existences. Arg! A miserable scream rang out. Xiaoyu's body gradually turned corporeal as his entire body trembled unceasingly. It was like he was enduring an incomparably terrifying might, and his body was about to be torn apart. "Governor Xiao, you have lost," Qin Wentian spat out. With an abrupt wave of his palms, Xiao Yu's body was directly flung through the air, akin to a kite with its string cut. Pucci, fresh blood spurted out from his mouth as the sage mandate dissipated. The aura radiating from Xiao Yu was no longer there, replaced with an incomparably dispirited and dispirited aura. When Xiao Yu's body slammed into the ground, everyone was still immersed in the battle earlier. Their eyes were all in a daze. Defeated. A supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, the youngest governor of Lifelong City, was defeated. He was defeated by this mysterious and handsome young man, who was only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Right now, Xiao Yu was already one of the top 3 among the 36 governors of Lifelong City. Yet, he actually lost to a young man at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Before this was simply unimaginable. However, the truth was right before their eyes. Xiao Yu was utterly defeated. Xiao Yu's 2 beautiful concubines flashed and appeared beside Xiao Yu, stretching their hands out to help him up. However, Xiao Yu merely flung their hands away as he growled, "Scram!" At this moment, all of Xiao Yu's pride seemed to have been shattered by this battle. The 2 beautiful concubines turned pale. They understood what this battle meant to Xiao Yu. As a supreme genius nurtured by the Sword Spirit sect, Xiao Yu had never experienced such a great defeat before. All the glory he had, all his fame, all his pride, all of it was reduced to ashes in this battle. This point could be seen from the eyes of the spectators. The number 1 governor of the northern city regions, Xiao Yu, fell from his pedestal in a single battle and fell so miserably. When everyone looked at Qin Wentian again, the gazes in their eyes were all different. Before this, they all thought that Qin Wentian was a young genius who didn't know the immensity of death and wanted to become famous. But now they knew that although he was a genius who wanted to become famous, he wasn't someone who didn't know the immensity of death. He was a supreme genius who could create a storm in Lifelong City. The old man from before felt his heart pounding madly. He stared at everything in a dumbfounded manner, unable to calm his heart for a long time. He actually defeated Xiao Yu. His eyes had no way to shift away from Qin Wentian. After that, he saw Qin Wentian directly turning and leaving, not even leaving his name behind. He was as mysterious as ever, coming and going like the wind. Nobody knew who he was or where he came from. The northern city regions were shaken, Lifelong City was shaken, the Sword Spirit sect was shaken, all because of a single battle. The youngest governor of Lifelong City, a supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, Governor Xiao Yu, was defeated by a mysterious mid-stage Immortal Emperor young man. This mysterious young man fought against 4 governors consecutively and won consecutively. Many governors in the Immortal Realms were all trembling in fear, worried that this mysterious young man would suddenly appear before them before the grand banquet, challenging them and causing their reputation to fall to the ground. But that mysterious young man actually vanished without a trace. Even until the day of the grand banquet, he didn't appear again. He didn't challenge the other governors, but countless people were hoping that he would appear again. They wanted to know who he was exactly and where he came from. Chapter 1613. Lifelong City grew more and more lively. As the date of the grand banquet approached, the commotion caused by Qin Wentian's domineering defeat of Xiao Yu gradually faded away. More and more people started to discuss about the grand banquet, wondering which characters would stand out. Naturally, there were also many people who guessed that the mysterious expert who defeated Xiao Yu would appear during the grand banquet. After all, the reason he challenged Xiao Yu was because he wanted to become famous and attract the attention of the Lifelong Saint Hall. In fact, he wanted the Realm Lord to pay attention to him. Xiao Yu was a genius that the Realm Lord had paid attention to before. How glorious was that! But now that he was defeated, the Realm Lord might have heard of this matter. The date of the grand banquet finally arrived. In the Jialan clan, at the location where the experts from Jialan Yuntian's faction were gathered, Jialan Yuntian was somewhat taken aback when he saw the masked young man before him. "Grandmaster D, why did you come from Lifefire City? A few days ago, I encountered an urgent matter and rushed back to Lifefire City. However, the consumption of my energy was too great and I could only make a trip to the Jialan clan. I am filled with gratitude for troubling the Jialan clan to send me here. Ditian smiled. How would Jalan Yuntian know that the two people who appeared were his true self and his avatar? If he really wanted to fuss, the person in front of him right now was the real Ditian. When did you become so polite? Back then, a certain someone was extremely dishonest. Jalan Chuyue, who was beside Jalan Yuntian, had a bright smile in her eyes as she stared at Qin Wentian. An awkward look flashed through Ditian's eyes. Back then, when his true self teased Jalan Chuyue, the effects were clear to see. Right now, Jalan Chuyue no longer had any wariness in her heart towards him. Most probably, she had already treated him as one of her own. Fairy Chua, I truly couldn't stand those people back then. That's why I offended them. Please don't bear a grudge against me. Ditian laughed. That would depend on Grandmaster D's performance in the future. Jalan Chuyue smiled. She who was usually dignified and noble actually had a smile on her face right now, exuding a sense of charm. Her beautiful eyes stared at Ditian, silently musing that this fellow actually told her not to hold a grudge against him. Back then, Ditian was truly audacious. Jalan Yuntian, who was at the side, had a deep smile on his face when he heard the conversation between the two of them. He regarded Ditian very highly as well. This genius weaponsmith was extraordinary, and although he managed to gain Ditian's friendship, it wasn't that solid after all. Once there was a special situation, it would easily break apart. But if Ditian was together with Jalan Chuyue, the situation would be different. The most important thing was that Jalan Chuyue seemed to have a favorable impression of Ditian. In addition to Ditian's talent in weaponsmithing as well as the tip of the iceberg he displayed when facing the attacks from the Sword Spirit sect, Jalan Yuntian felt that Ditian was extraordinary. If they could really be together, Jalan Yuntian would definitely support it. Let's go, Grandmaster D is also here for this banquet. Let's move out. Jalan Yuntian spoke. Grandpa, are we heading there by ourselves? Jalan Chuyue asked. Let's meet up with your second grandpa and head there together. Although there are some conflicts between us, the Jalan clan is united as one to the outside world. There mustn't be any divisions. If not, given how many peak powers there are in Lifelong City, how can our Jalan clan continue to grow? If your second grandpa really reaches a certain height, even if he wants my position as the clan leader, I have no qualms about giving it to him. Jalan Yuntian spoke, his words filled with resolution. Jalan Chuyue wanted to say something, but she didn't say anything. She only nodded her head lightly. Jalan Yuntian gathered everyone and met up with Jalan Yunhai and the others. Upon seeing Ditian's appearance, Jalan Skywolf's expression instantly turned extremely unsightly. Back then he kept mocking Qin Wentian, wanting to use him to make things difficult for Jalan Yuntian and the others. But after that, Qin Wentian took out an emperor-ranked weapon and stunned the people from the Xianyuan clan, causing them to be extremely polite to him. After that, the soul attacks of the experts from the Sword Spirit sect couldn't do anything to Qin Wentian and even suffered a backlash. Grandmaster D. Jalan Yunhai saw Ditian appearing. He walked over and nodded to him. This junior has offended you in the past. I hope Grandmaster D can forgive me. As he spoke, he turned his gaze to Jalan Skywolf. Come over and apologize to Grandmaster D. Jalan Skywolf's countenance instantly turned pale. He stared at his grandfather, and upon seeing the stern look in Jalan Yunhai's eyes, he walked towards Ditian and spoke, Grandmaster D, I hope Grandmaster D can forgive me if I offended you in the past. Ditian's expression was calm when he saw the expressions of the two of them. This Jalan Yunhai was truly not an ordinary character. He glanced at Jalan Skywolf as he calmly spoke, don't worry about it. It's just that the Jalan clan is an Empyrean power and I have always respected them. But after what I saw back then, I was truly disappointed. Although the Jalan clan is extraordinary, there are too many major powers in Lifelong City. For the sake of the Jalan clan's strength, there are some things I have no choice but to do. I've let Grandmaster D see a joke. Jalan Yunhai smiled at Ditian. If I knew that Chuyue is such a good match, I wouldn't have acted so smart. Although Jalan Chuyue didn't have any favorable impression of Jalan Yunhai, she couldn't help but blush when she heard this. Clearly, the incident back then caused Jalan Yunhai and the others to misunderstand. Jalan Yuntian and the others didn't explain anything. Hence Jalan Yunhai said this. She stealthily glanced at Ditian. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shyness. When Ditian saw this scene, how could he not understand that he was misunderstood? Since Jalan Yuntian and the others didn't explain anything, he didn't say anything either. He only smiled and nodded. Big brother, let's move out. Jalan Yunhai spoke to Jalan Yuntian. The experts of the Jalan clan gathered together and soared into the air, flying towards the direction of the lifelong Saint Hall. In the air, more and more experts soared into the air. Many of them were flying towards the center of Lifelong City, in the direction of the lifelong Saint Hall, as expected of the golden age of the lifelong realm. This time around, I wonder how many heroes would appear. As they neared the lifelong Saint Hall, more and more experts appeared. There were even some young immortal emperors who were extremely transcendent, extremely terrifying. Yeah, the lifelong realm is boundlessly vast. Geniuses are as common as the clouds. Let's talk about the #1 governor of our northern city regions, Xiao Yu. He is an extraordinary character, a supreme genius. Back then, he was singled out by the Realm Lord, but just a few days ago, he was defeated by a mysterious mid-stage immortal emperor, causing a huge commotion in the northern city regions. Most probably, this person is also here for the grand banquet this time around. Jalan Yunhai spoke. Although I don't know who that person is, he is definitely a genius of his generation. Choyue, his cultivation base is the same as yours. You still have to work hard. Jalan Yuntian spoke to Jalan Choyue, his gaze filled with anticipation. Although Jalan Choyue's talent was very good, there was still a gap between her and Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu was a famous character in Lifelong City, but even someone like him was defeated by someone who jumped levels to jump levels. From this, one could very well imagine how many geniuses there were in the lifelong realm. And Jalan Choyue seriously nodded her head. She had also heard of that battle. The person who defeated Xiao Yu was rumored to be a godlike existence. She glanced at Ditian beside her and smiled. Ditian, that mysterious person also has the same cultivation base as you and is rumored to be extraordinarily handsome. What do you think of him? Ditian didn't know how to reply. Should he praise him or belittle him? Jalan Choyue thought that Ditian was embarrassed and didn't know how to reply. She couldn't help but to smile lightly. The lifelong Saint Hall, the place where the lifelong Realm Lord governed. It was a majestic city that stood high up in the sky. Outside the lifelong Saint Hall, there was a flight of stairs that was 10,000 meters tall. There was a statue of the lifelong Realm Lord carved on it, and countless people would come here frequently, bowing to the statue as though it was a divinity. As the overlord of a world, the lifelong Realm Lord had supreme authority in the lifelong realm. He had invincible strength and was the target of respect for countless people. In this world that revered the martial path, the lifelong Realm Lord was the god of this world. Today, at the foot of the flight of stairs leading up to the lifelong Saint Hall, countless people gathered. No one stood in the air. Everyone who came here had to descend from the air and walk. They could only stare up at the lifelong Saint Hall. No one dared to look down on this majestic city. That would be a form of disrespect to the lifelong Realm Lord. Outside the lifelong Saint Hall, there were 10 towering platforms constructed. Each of them was 90,000 meters tall, and there were thrones at the peak, exuding incomparable nobility. These were the places where the World Palace Lords would sit when they came to pay their respects to the lifelong Saint Hall. These towering platforms were the thrones of the World Palace Lords, displaying the lofty status of the 9 world palaces. In the central area, there was also an independent towering platform that was extremely vast. The platform could easily accommodate tens of thousands of people, resembling a gigantic training ground. It was unknown how many people were gathered below the towering platforms. All of them had fanatical looks in their eyes as they stared ahead. Today, they would have the chance to personally witness the peak characters of the lifelong realm. Those supreme characters who could dominate an entire region were all gathered here. The people of the Jalan clan also arrived. Standing below, Jalan Choyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. She spoke in a low voice. Were these towering platforms constructed on a temporary basis? Naturally, they wouldn't exist normally, and would only be constructed once every 100 years. However, to Empyreans this isn't difficult at all. Jalan Yuntian spoke. Ditian's eyes flashed as he silently mused at how extravagant this was. However, Jalan Yuntian's words were also right. There were some people who were proficient in special attributes and could easily construct these towering platforms. Clearly, the lifelong Saint Hall didn't lack such characters. The people from the Xianyuan clan have arrived. Jialan Yunhai spoke. In a certain direction, many experts from the Xianyuan clan were gathered together, clustered around a single person. Xianyuan Hao, who Qin Wentian met before in the Jialan clan, was also in the crowd. However, he wasn't conspicuous and was merely a character beside him. The person being clustered around was none other than the Xianyuan Empyrean, one of the 9 world palace lords. When he arrived, his gaze swept through the crowd as a look of disdain could be seen in his eyes. After that, he turned his gaze to the statue of the lifelong realm lord and bowed. Although he was a world palace lord, his actions were filled with incomparable sincerity, like he was paying respect to a god. Although the difference between a world palace lord and a realm lord was only a single step, only characters like them could understand how vast the disparity was. Chapter 1614. Beside the Xianyuan palace lord of the Xianyuan clan, other than many experts from the Xianyuan clan, there were also many leaders of the major powers in the Xianyuan palace. They came together with the Xianyuan palace lord, and when they saw the Xianyuan palace lord bowing to the statue of the lifelong realm lord, they all bowed in the direction of the statue as well. Everyone's eyes were filled with sincerity. At the very least, this was so on the surface. At this moment, a person walked down step by step. This person actually walked down from the top of the staircase. He had his head held high and his chest puffed out, exuding a lofty aura, extremely outstanding. He had the appearance of a young man and his hands were clasped behind his back, exuding a calm and composed aura. Facing the crowd, a look of arrogance could be seen on his face as he walked down the staircase. Skyer Palace Lord. Beside Ditian, Jialan Yunhai spoke. This person is the personal disciple of the lifelong realm lord, and is extremely outstanding. The lifelong realm lord dotes on him, and arranged for him to be one of the 9 world palace lords. Ditian nodded silently. No wonder this person exuded such a lofty aura when he walked down the staircase. After the Skyer Palace Lord came down, many experts immediately rushed over. Clearly, these people were from his Skyer Palace as well as the major powers in his territory. All of them were extremely proud, as though they felt honored. Their Skyer Palace Lord was the personal disciple of the lifelong realm lord, and was doted on by many. Morning Xianyuan. The Skyer Palace Lord nodded to the Xianyuan Palace Lord. You are early as well. The Xianyuan Palace Lord smiled and returned the greeting. From afar, the sound of whistling wind rang out. A group of people flew over like a gust of wind. Many people hurriedly gave way, and after that, they saw 2 groups of experts walking over together. Although the 2 people in the lead had different appearances, their auras were somewhat similar. Both of them radiated an intense battle intent, like they were born battle maniacs. Gemini Palace Lord. Jialan Yunhai spoke. The position of the Gemini Palace Lord has always been held by 2 people at the same time. It's rumored that the Gemini Palace Lord is the personal disciple of that person. I wonder if this is true? Jialan Yuntian spoke in a low voice. According to Father's understanding, it's true. Jialan Yunhai replied. Ditian's eyes flashed. Who was that person? As though he could see the puzzlement on Ditian's face, Jialan Yunhai continued. In the lifelong realm, there's still another world overlord level existence. Although he doesn't like to establish his own power and roams the world, there's no need to doubt his tyrannical strength. It's said that he is a good friend of the Realm Lord, but as for the exact relationship between him and the Realm Lord, outsiders have no idea. However, it's rumored that 2 of his disciples were arranged by the Realm Lord to become the Gemini World Palace Lords. Ditian nodded lightly. Another world overlord existence? The Dragon Saddle Palace Lord has arrived. Another group of people with extraordinary temperaments descended. They rode on demonic dragons, causing the ground to tremble. The crowd made way for them. The people from the Saddle Dragon Palace walked into the crowd. The leader of the group was an extremely dignified Saddle Dragon Palace Lord clad in armor. He glanced at the other Palace Lords and nodded to them. The Saddle Dragon Palace is the same as the Xianyuan Palace. It was also established by the Realm Lord when he ruled the lifelong realm. The first palace lord was someone who followed the realm lord into battle. The current saddle dragon palace lord is his descendant. Every time a new palace lord appeared, Jelan Yunhai would introduce them. Although he was casually speaking, it felt like he was intentionally introducing them to Tian. There's another world palace, the Scarlet Origin Palace. The first palace lords of these three world palaces are all old men beside the realm lord. But right now, the Xianyuan Palace and Saddle Dragon Palace lords are still descendants of the first palace lords. However, the Scarlet Origin Palace is no longer the case. Back then, one of the Scarlet Origin Palace lords made a mistake and was too arrogant, causing the realm lord to be enraged. The realm lord directly gave the order to cripple them, and didn't kill them on account of their old friendship. Instead, they were exiled and the name of the Scarlet Origin Palace was retained. If not, there might be no Scarlet Origin Palace among the 9 world palaces. Jelan Yunhai continued. As he spoke, his gaze turned to a group of people in the distance. Speaking of the Scarlet Origin Palace, they are here. Your Livefire Empyrean has arrived as well. Jelan Yunhai laughed. Tian turned his gaze in another direction and saw the Livefire Empyrean leading a group of experts over. Behind the Livefire Empyrean there was Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong, the 3 governors of Livefire City, Xiaohou, Beauty Xiao, Inqiu, Protector Chan and the other protector elders. Other than them, the Jialan monarch and the other 8 monarchs were all here as well. Only Qin Wentian was absent. This Livefire Empyrean was clearly guarding against Qin Wentian. This was especially so now that Yi Qianyu was suddenly transferred away. He wouldn't allow Qin Wentian to have a chance to shine and appear in the vision of the Realm Lord. After all, he was very clear about Qin Wentian's talent. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian's capabilities, he wouldn't have placed him in the northern governor's position to restrict the Jialan clan. The foundations of the Livefire Palace can be considered one of the weakest among the 9 world palaces. There's also the Kungvutter Palace and Zhengmetal Palace. These 3 palaces are located in the same direction and are neighbors. Out of the 9 world palaces, their foundations are slightly weaker. The Xianyuan Palace, Dragon Saddle Palace, and Scarlet Origin Palace all have their initial palace lords who have followed the Realm Lord for a long time. As for the remaining 3 world palaces, the Gemini Palace has a character on the same level as the Realm Lord as their support. The Skyer Palace has a disciple of the Realm Lord. As for the last world palace, the Desolate Heaven Palace is said to be the strongest among the 9 world palaces. Tian silently nodded, memorizing the names of the 9 world palaces in his heart. As time flowed by, this region grew more and more lively. The world palace lords of the 9 world palaces all arrived. The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord came as well. The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was extremely imposing, exuding a disdainful aura as he stood there. The other 8 world palace lords, including the personal disciple of the Realm Lord, the Skyer Palace Lord, were all extremely polite to him. From this, one could see how powerful the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was. Does the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord have no background? Tian curiously asked. It's precisely because he has no background that he relied on himself to climb to the peak step by step. This is why he is so terrifying. The Realm Lord regards him highly, and once wanted to accept him as a disciple. However, the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord said that although he respects the Realm Lord, the cultivation paths of the 2 of them are different. He has his own path to walk, and will naturally forge his own path to the World Overlord realm. Jelan Yunhai spoke. This means that he rejected the Realm Lord? Is he not afraid that the Realm Lord would be unhappy? Tian mused in a low voice. This Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was truly tyrannical enough. Although the lifelong Realm Lord's cultivation path wasn't suitable for him, his status as the Realm Lord's disciple was already extremely outstanding. It wouldn't be bad for him to occasionally give pointers. Yet, he actually rejected the Realm Lord? The Realm Lord controls boundless territories. How can he be so narrow-minded? The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord is someone he admires a lot, and is also his subordinate. Even if he doesn't want to be his disciple, it doesn't matter. When he heard the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord's words, he merely laughed it off. Tian nodded lightly. The 9 world palace lords led their people to the 9 towering platforms and waited silently. Finally, in the direction of the lifelong Saint Hall, more and more people walked over. 2 maidens appeared at the front. Not only were their cultivation bases powerful, their beauty was also breathtaking. How beautiful! Jalan Chuyue, who was beside Ditian, involuntarily praised. As a supreme beauty of Lifefire City, there was no need to doubt Jalan Chuyue's beauty. But when she saw these two maidens, she couldn't help but feel stunned. Their auras were transcendent, and they exuded a sense of nobility. The maidens of the Realm Lord. What do you think? Jalan Yuntian laughed. We pay our respects to the two fairies. The 9 World Palace Lords bowed. Other than the desolate Heaven Palace Lord, who merely nodded his head, the other 8 World Palace Lords all bowed to show their respect. Even the Skyer Palace Lord did the same. Ditian felt his heart trembling when he saw this scene. What sort of characters were the World Palace Lords? Their statuses were extremely high and they could look down on everyone, ruling over an entire region. But when facing these two maidens, they had no choice but to bow. How glorious was this? Ditian naturally understood that this wasn't because these two maidens had high cultivation bases, or because they were beautiful. It was because they were the lifelong Realm Lord's women. Beside him, Jalan Chuyue smiled when she saw Ditian's expression. What's wrong with you? Ditian glanced at Jalan Chuyue as his sharp eyes gleamed with a bright light. He smiled. I'm thinking that in the future, my women would also be like the two of you, lofty and lofty, being worshipped by the masses. Jalan Chuyue felt her heart trembling when she saw that pair of deep and resplendent eyes. She couldn't help but feel nervous. However, she only saw Ditian turning his gaze away, no longer looking at her. This caused her to feel a sense of disappointment. Who was this sentence directed at? Would it be her? Jalan Chuyue was actually somewhat distracted. It was very hard to imagine that someone like her would be moved by a single sentence from an outsider. Father has arrived. At this moment, Jalan Yuntian spoke. After that, Jalan Chuyue returned to her senses. She turned her gaze towards the direction of the towering platform, only to see that many people from the peak powers of Lifelong City were heading there. However, none of them dared to ascend the towering platform. They could only find their own seats on the flight of stairs. And among them, there was the true soul of the Jialan clan, the strongest expert of the Jialan clan. Let's go over as well. Jalan Yunhai spoke. As a peak power of Lifelong City, they naturally had the qualifications to have a seat on the flight of stairs. As for the other powers that followed the World Palace Lords here, they would also have their own seats on the flight of stairs. As for ordinary people, they could only stare up at everything from below. Ditian, let's go together? Jalan Yuntian glanced at Ditian as he asked. And Ditian nodded lightly. Upon seeing this scene, Jalan Yuntian smiled. The Lifefire Empyrean was here as well. If Ditian wanted to go together with them, the meaning behind it was very clear. Many people started to ascend the flight of stairs. All of them were experts from the various powers. The World Palace Lords also walked towards their respective towering platforms and sat down on their thrones, exuding an incomparably imposing aura. Ditian followed the people from the Jialan clan and came to the highest flight of stairs in the Lifelong Saint Hall. This flight of stairs was actually parallel to the towering platforms of the 9 world palaces. This was a place where only people from the peak powers could reach. Chapter 16:15. The two brothers, Jalan Yuntian and Jalan Yunhai, walked to an old man and respectfully greeted, Father, please take a seat. This old man was none other than the Jialan clan's overlord, Jalan Jiangshan. He had transcended into sainthood and was a half-step world overlord. He had once fought against the Lifefire Empyrean for the position of the Lifefire Empyrean. Although he lost, there was no doubt about his strength. In fact, he even had the ability to influence the situation in Lifelong City. He acted to move Yiqianyu here. From this, one could see that although he didn't manage to seize the position of the Lifefire Empyrean, he wasn't willing to give up just like that. Grandpa! Great-grandpa! Many people from the Jialan clan bowed and greeted. Jalan Jiangshan smiled and nodded at them. After that, his gaze turned to Ditian. Who are you? The people here should all be from the Jialan clan, but he didn't recognize Ditian at all. Hence he asked this question. Father, Grandmaster D is a supreme Grandmaster weaponsmith. His weaponsmithing abilities are extremely strong, and he is currently establishing the Emperor Pavilion in Lifefire City. Jelan Yuntian replied on behalf of Ditian. Junior Ditian pays my respects to Senior Jelan. Ditian nodded lightly to Jelan Jiangshan. Neither servile nor overbearing. Father, Grandmaster D is truly outstanding. Back then when he took out an emperor-ranked weapon, he wasn't inferior to the one forged by the Xianyuan clan. That last Chuyue really admires him. Jialan Yunhai also laughed. Oh! Jialan Jiangshan's eyes flashed. He naturally knew about the matters between his two sons. However, they knew their limits. No matter what grudges they had in their hearts were all for the sake of the Jialan clan. At this moment, both of them were praising the same person. This meant that this mysterious masked young man was truly capable. That last Chuyue is about to grow up. Jialan Jiangshan smiled at Jialan Chuyue, his words causing Jialan Chuyue to feel somewhat bashful and didn't reply. Although she was very close to her grandfather Jialan Yuntian, she wasn't that familiar with her great-grandfather. But even so, she knew how imposing her great-grandfather was. Grandmaster D. At this moment, a voice drifted over. Ditian turned his gaze over, staring at a tall platform where the Livefire Empyrean was at. As for the person who spoke, it was none other than the governor of the Central City regions, Xiaho. Grandmaster D is someone from my Livefire City, and the Emperor Pavilion is also a power of my Livefire City. Why isn't Grandmaster D in my Livefire City but is here instead? Xiaho calmly spoke, his voice filled with coldness. Clearly, he wanted to sow discord. As expected, the Livefire Empyrean turned his gaze in the direction of Ditian. His eyes gleamed with a bright red light. Even the Violet Moon Fairy beside him was also staring at Ditian with a cold expression. Back then when the scandal of the central governor's manor caused such a commotion, she was the one who personally went there to stop Xiaho, allowing the Emperor Pavilion to continue existing. Who would have thought that right now, Xiaho actually became a member of the Jialan clan? She didn't know if the Livefire Empyrean would blame her for not doing her job well. It's a long story. Back then, thanks to Governor Xiaho, my Emperor Pavilion was almost unable to continue operating. In order to prevent the same thing from happening again, I could only find another path and head to the northern regions. Hence, I got acquainted with the Jialan clan. Right now, I'm not here as a representative of the Emperor Pavilion. I'm only here as a friend of the Jialan clan. Ditian calmly replied. His words undoubtedly turned the tables on Xiaho, telling him that he was together with the Jialan clan because of Xiaho. He wanted to see what the Livefire Empyrean would think of this. When the Livefire Empyrean heard this, he naturally glanced at Xiaho, causing Xiaho's expression to stiffen. The gaze he used to stare at Ditian grew even colder. Ditian of the Emperor Pavilion pays my respects to Palace Lord. Ditian nodded to the Livefire Empyrean. The Livefire Empyrean coldly glanced at him but didn't reply. Who didn't know about the relationship between him and the Jialan clan? Did Ditian already choose his side? Upon seeing the Livefire Empyrean's expression, Ditian's eyes flashed. Seems like after he returned, he should move the Emperor Pavilion to the northern regions. If there were any unforeseen circumstances, the Jialan clan should be able to bear it for him. It was impossible to balance between two hegemonic powers. Right now, Ditian was in the light while he was in the dark. The best solution was to let the Livefire Palace and Jialan clan fight against each other. Grandmaster D, how have you been? At this moment, in another direction, Xianyuan Hao from the Xianyuan Palace called out. Ditian's eyes turned over again as he stared in that direction. Senior Xianyuan. Ditian was truly low profile. He wasn't as domineering as Qin Wentian in the Jialan clan. On the contrary, he maintained sufficient humility. Grandmaster is too polite, you can just call me Xianyuan Hao. Grandmaster's glory back then is still fresh in my memory. If I'm fortunate enough to be able to invite Grandmaster D to my Xianyuan clan for a visit, I would definitely be extremely happy. Xianyuan Hao spoke. If I'm free in the future, ID will definitely pay a visit. Ditian smiled. This Xianyuan Hao was truly giving him face. By speaking at this moment, it would undoubtedly serve as a warning to the Livefire Empyrean. Although it was just a simple sentence, it was already indirectly helping him. These old fellows really knew how to conduct themselves. As expected, the eyes of the Livefire Empyrean flashed. Although they were all from the 9 world palaces, His position was extremely unstable. If he was careless, he might lose it. If not, that old fellow Jialan Jiangshan wouldn't dare to keep staring at him. But for the Xianyuan Palace, who could shake their position? Their foundations were extremely deep. This Ditian was actually able to gain the favor of the Xianyuan clan. From this, one could see that he was truly very capable. The various peak powers of Lifelong City arrived one after another. The experts of the 9 world palaces all turned their gazes to the throne at the top of the flight of stairs. All of a sudden, a dazzling shadow flashed, seemingly descending from the heavens. After that, a shadow landed on the throne and gradually turned corporeal, transforming into an extremely handsome young man. He seemed to be in his 20s and exuded magnificence. His hands were clasped behind his back as he smiled at everyone. Everyone started. After that, they saw the lifelong Realm Lord's appearance changing, swiftly returning to his original appearance. He looked to be in his 50s and exuded a transcendent aura, like he was a true immortal. Everyone stood up, including the Empyreans of the 9 world palaces. They stared at the young man on the throne as countless people bowed in unison, calling out in a loud voice, "We pay our respects to Realm Lord." The lifelong Realm Lord slowly sat down on the throne. If he didn't speak, no one dared to lift their heads. "Sit." The lifelong Realm Lord waved his hand and smiled. Only then did everyone incline their heads. "Thank you, Realm Lord." As the sound of his voice faded, many people sat down, feeling somewhat speechless in their hearts. When this Realm Lord appeared, he was actually a handsome young man. They had no idea what he was doing outside. Seems like he must have rushed here because the grand banquet was about to begin. However, none of them dared to ask. What cultivation base did the Realm Lord have? He was someone that transcended the lifelong realm and would often be outside. How could he always stay in the lifelong Saint Hall? As for the matters in the lifelong realm, the subordinates of the lifelong Saint Hall and the 9 world palaces would naturally help him handle them. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years have passed. The 9 world palace lords have helped me guard the various places. It has been tough on you. The lifelong Realm Lord spoke. The Skyair Palace Lord was the Realm Lord's disciple. He was the first to reply. "This is originally something we should be doing. How can it be tough on us? Realm Lord, please don't make things difficult for us." The various world palace lords spoke. "Although I'm the lifelong Realm Lord, the matters in the lifelong realm have always been shared by all of you. Jialan should be the one to speak. Men, prepare some wine." The lifelong Realm Lord spoke. After that, many young and beautiful maidens appeared behind him, preparing the wine. In the air, celestial music suddenly rang out. After that, a group of maidens clad in white with veils on their faces slowly floated down, landing on the tall platform in the center of the banquet. The dances of the fairies from the Red Dust Immortal Palace have always been breathtaking. Today I can finally enjoy it in peace. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. The Red Dust Immortal Palace was a peak power that was formed from extremely beautiful maidens. Not only did they have extraordinary strength, their dances were also unparalleled. If one wanted to invite them, they would have to pay an extremely great price. Although these maidens had their faces veiled, one could still see their beauty. Also, their dance, as well as the music they sang, were all extremely beautiful. Ditian couldn't help but to praise when he saw this scene. What a beautiful dance, what moving voices. Everyone quietly admired as their eyes flashed with shock. The resplendent starlight on the tall platform was like a dream. From there, Ditian faintly felt a sense of familiarity. At this moment, moonlight cascaded down from the starry sky. Under the moonlight, an extremely alluring and sexy figure appeared. When the moonlight shone on her, she was like a fairy from the Moon Palace. Although she stood there quietly, her beauty was still breathtaking to the extreme. The moment she moved, it was just a simple movement, but it caused everyone's hearts to tremble uncontrollably. Beautiful, the Red Dust Immortal Palace truly lives up to its name. Too beautiful. Someone involuntarily praised. However, Ditian's body stiffened as he stared blankly at the figure in the void. No wonder he felt a sense of familiarity. At this moment, that beauty under the moonlight was so familiar. Once, in the Jialan Emperor City, above the lake under the moonlight, that world-shaking dance was still unforgettable. Now it had appeared again. The eyes of the people from the Jialan clan flashed. Jialan Chuyua's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. She stared at the figure in the air and asked, "Grandpa, is she really someone from the Red Dust Immortal Palace?" If it wasn't for someone recording that dance in the Jialan Emperor City, I most probably wouldn't have known about this. It's precisely because of this that I had the opportunity to bring her out from the Livefire prison, allowing her to atone for her crimes today. The Red Dust Immortal Palace was implicated in this matter. They naturally have to apologize. Jialan Yuntian didn't dare to say it directly. He transmitted his voice to Jialan Chuyua instead. Jialan Chuyua's beautiful eyes flashed. When she saw Ditian staring at the beautiful figure in the air, her lips actually curled up into a smile. She nudged Ditian and smiled. "Seems like this beauty has fallen." Ditian's eyes flashed, only to hear Jialan Chuyua asking, "Do you know who she is?" Ditian shook his head. Jialan Chuyua transmitted her voiceover, "Yi Qinyu." Back then it was her and Qin Wentian who caused trouble in the Jialan Emperor City. A junior captured them and imprisoned them. The Livefire Empyrean used this to threaten Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to come to the northern city regions, wanting to deal with our Jialan clan. However, that arrogant Governor Qin actually didn't come today. Most probably, the Livefire Empyrean doesn't want him to appear. Chapter 16:16. Ditian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The Livefire Empyrean naturally didn't wish for Qin Wentian to come here. Isn't Yi Qinyu a bandit? How did she become a member of the Red Dust Immortal Palace? Ditian pretended to be curious as he asked. The Red Dust Immortal Palace has world-shaking dances. Among them, the Mortal Dust Descent and Beauty Under the Moonlight are the two most dazzling dances of the Red Dust Immortal Palace. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to see these two dances. If the fairies of the Red Dust Immortal Palace were to perform them, they would be able to topple the hearts of the masses. Back then, after the Night Empyrean was killed, no one knew that he had a daughter. Most probably at that time, Yi Qinyu used her shocking beauty and talent to sneak into the Red Dust Immortal Palace to cultivate. Jialan Yuntian spoke in a low voice. "Don't underestimate the dance of the Red Dust Immortal Palace. If this dance is performed with their unique ability, it can bewitch the hearts of people, causing them to fall into a trance. In fact, there's even a movement technique hidden within. It's extremely powerful." Yes, Ditian nodded lightly. The magnificent dance on the platform finally came to a halt. The Red Dust Fairies all knelt on one knee. Yi Qinyu, who was in the center, also knelt on one knee. Everyone spoke in unison. "The Red Dust Immortal Palace begs the Realm Lord for forgiveness." "Oh." The lifelong Realm Lord laughed as he asked, "What crime is there to be guilty of? My Red Dust Immortal Palace once accepted a disciple named Yi Qinyu, but I didn't expect her to be the daughter of the Great Bandit, the Night Empyrean. Also, tens of years ago, the Night Empyrean became a bandit again, causing trouble in the territories governed by the Livefire Palace. Now I specially let Yi Qinyu perform a dance to beg for Realm Lord's forgiveness and punishment." A fairy gently spoke. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. "I didn't expect that the fairies of the Red Dust Immortal Palace would actually be bandits. This is truly a new matter. I wonder who it is." Junior Yi Qinyu apologizes to Realm Lord. Yi Qinyu lowered her head as she spoke. The lifelong Realm Lord glanced at her and smiled. "I temporarily have no idea what happened. You guys can withdraw first. After the banquet is over, come to the lifelong Saint Hall and wait for my orders. I will make my decision after I understand the situation." "Yes, Realm Lord." The fairies from the Red Dust Immortal Palace stood up and swiftly retreated. "It's been 100 years since we last met. The major powers of my lifelong city are still as prosperous as ever. During these 100 years, are there any characters who have broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm?" The lifelong Realm Lord smiled as he stared at everyone. "Realm Lord, Xinyuan Mo of my Xinyuan clan has broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm." The person who spoke was the Xinyuan Palace Lord. At the same time, he was also the soul of the Xinyuan clan. Because he was busy with the affairs of the Xinyuan Palace, he did not directly control the Xinyuan clan in Lifelong City. However, his position in the Xinyuan clan was supreme. Grand Elder Xinyuan broke through? The lifelong Realm Lord's gaze soon landed on a person as he smiled. By the radiance of the Realm Lord, I'm only able to break through because of your blessings. Xinyuan Emo stood up and bowed to the lifelong Realm Lord. Stop sticking gold on my face. What does your breakthrough have to do with me? The lifelong Realm Lord joked. Sit, there's no need to be so formal. Many thanks, Realm Lord. Xinyuan Emo sat down. After that, an expert from the Sword Spirit sect also spoke, saying that someone in their sect has broken through and stepped into that level. The lifelong Realm Lord stroked his beard and was extremely happy. He then asked, where's Xiaoyu? I remember that Xiaoyu from the Sword Spirit sect has extraordinary talent and is currently the Grand Governor of Lifelong City. Did I remember wrongly? The eyes of everyone froze. The people from the Sword Spirit sect also fell silent. Originally, it was an extremely glorious matter to be remembered by the Realm Lord. But just a few days ago, the news of Xiaoyu's defeat had already circulated. Xiaoyu's expression stiffened. If it was in the past, he would definitely stand up with pride. But right now, not only did he feel that he had no face, he could naturally sense the peculiar expressions on the faces of those from the Sword Spirit sect. Your subordinate is here. The Realm Lord spoke. Xiaoyu eventually still stood up and lowered his head. Xiaoyu, why do you look so dispirited? The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. Reporting to Realm Lord a few days ago, a mysterious expert appeared in my lifelong city. He challenged the 4 governors of the northern region and all 4 of them were defeated, including Xiaoyu. The sect leader of the Sword Spirit sect spoke. The eyes of the lifelong Realm Lord flashed, but he still smiled. Which power is he from? Is he here today? I have no idea where he came from. He doesn't seem to be here today as well. The Sword Spirit sect leader spoke. Interesting. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. Seems like many extraordinary emperors have appeared in my lifelong city during these years. Although I'm the Realm Lord, I've left most of my matters to the 9 world palaces and the various governors to manage. I don't know much about the matters of the lifelong realm. Today, I shall take this opportunity to take a look at the experts of my lifelong realm. Same rules, everyone who came today can participate in the Emperor Rank competition. I will heavily reward those who can become the top 10. The eyes of many emperors gleamed with sharpness. This was a grand banquet that occurred once every 100 years. The lifelong Realm Lord would gather the experts of the 9 world palaces and the various major powers here to enjoy the banquet. In truth, this was a gathering for him as the lifelong Realm Lord and his subordinates. At the same time, they could enjoy the delicacies, the dances of beauties and the battles of the martial path. And to a world that revered martial arts, the battles of the martial path were undoubtedly the most anticipated. This was especially so if they could perform well in front of the Realm Lord and would be heavily rewarded. How rare was this opportunity? It would only occur once every 100 years. They all understood that this was an opportunity. It wasn't as simple as sparring on the surface. The truly outstanding ones would enter the vision of the lifelong St. Hall and would be heavily promoted in the future. Right now, there were many people with high positions in the lifelong St. Hall, including the 9 world palace lords, the 36 governors, the 4 grand governors and many other Empyreans in the lifelong St. Hall. Many of them had come out from the grand banquet that was held once every 100 years. There was also no need for the lifelong St. Hall to intentionally select geniuses from the younger generations. The frequency of the grand banquet that occurred once every 100 years was considered very high. As long as the geniuses grew up, they wouldn't miss out on this opportunity and would be used by them. Hence, this grand banquet only had emperors competing against each other. For those who wished to participate, get up the platform. Figure walked out. This person was none other than the protector of the lifelong Realm Lord. His strength was extraordinary, and he was the personal attendant of the Realm Lord. Although his authority wasn't as great as the 9 world palace lords, he was still a close subject of the Realm Lord and his status wasn't inferior at all. In an instant, numerous figures soared through the air and landed on the platform. All of them were immortal emperors and the vast majority of them were peak stage immortal emperors. This lineup was extremely terrifying. The majority of them were from the various major powers of Lifelong City, as well as some from the territories of the 9 world palaces. They came here to fight for their futures. If they could enter the top 10, not only would the Realm Lord bestow precious rewards upon them, They might even be placed in an important position. Even if they couldn't enter the top 10, as long as they were outstanding enough, they might still be noticed by the lifelong St. Hall and be entrusted with heavy responsibilities in the future. Is there no one from our Jialan clan participating? Jialan Jiangshan glanced at the experts of the Jialan clan as he asked. All the major powers have sent out their experts. You guys better not disappoint me. As the sound of his voice faded, 5 experts from the Jialan clan immediately stood up and rushed towards the platform. All of them were peak stage immortal emperors. Jialan Chui's beautiful eyes flashed. When she saw the experts from the various powers descending on the platform, she felt a stirring in her heart, wanting to act. Chuiwa, your cultivation base is too low. Wait until you break through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm before you go. Jialan Yuntian spoke to Jialan Chuiwa, who was beside him. It wasn't so easy to jump levels. This was especially so for those who stepped out. Many of them were already peak stage immortal emperors, including some of the more dazzling existences in Lifelong City. Let alone Jialan Chuiwa. Even for the 5 experts from the Jialan clan, it would already be a miracle if one of them could enter the top 10. Yes, Grandpa. Jialan Chuiwa's beautiful eyes flashed with disappointment. She glanced at Ditian beside her and blinked. Seems like this time around we can only be spectators. Is that so? Ditian's black eyes flashed with a strange light. Jialan Chuiwa suddenly spoke. Oh yeah, you still haven't told me your purpose for coming to Lifelong City. Is it also for the sake of spectating the grand banquet this time around? No. Ditian shook his head. Then why? Jialan Chuiwa was puzzled. This fellow, he was already here but he actually denied it. For the sake of participating. Ditian laughed. After that he stood up, causing Jialan Chuiwa to start. After that, a strange look flashed on her face as she asked, Ditian, you want to participate? Jialan Yuntian also turned his gaze to Ditian as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Ditian wanted to participate? I want to participate. Ditian nodded. Grandmaster D, your name is famous throughout Lifefire City for your weaponsmithing. But this is a competition of the martial path. Also, many of the participants are peak stage immortal emperors with outstanding combat prowess, already standing at the peak of the immortal emperor realm. Although I don't doubt Grandmaster D's combat prowess, your cultivation base is still a level lower than mine. Do you want to reconsider? Jialan Yuntian tactfully spoke. Although this battle would end when the victor is determined, it was inevitable that there would be accidental injuries. Ditian was only a mid-stage immortal emperor. If he participated, even if he could retreat safely, he would still be injured. Ditian, don't tell me you really want to participate? Jialan Chuiwa's beautiful eyes stared at Ditian. Although this fellow's weaponsmithing abilities were extraordinary, he was still a mid-stage immortal emperor after all. In combat, emperor-ranked weapons weren't allowed to be used. How could he compete against those peak-stage geniuses? Do you not trust me so much? Ditian asked. It's not that I don't trust you. Although your weaponsmithing abilities are extraordinary, but... Jialan Chuiwa's eyes flashed with anxiety. She didn't know how to persuade him. I'm going. Ditian didn't say anything more. With a flash of his silhouette, he soared through the air and appeared on the battle platform. Ditian's appearance attracted the attention of those from the Lifefire Palace. The eyes of many people flashed. Many major powers from the Lifefire Palace came here. They naturally knew of Ditian's name. The Yen clan, Lu clan, Mo clan all sent people here. Back then when Lu Feibai challenged Ditian rejected. But now, he actually stepped onto the Empyrean battle platform. Lu Feibai sat among the people from the Lu clan, his eyes flashing with uncertainty. Is he courting death? The Violet Moon Fairy who was beside the Lifefire Empyrean coldly spoke. She was extremely unhappy that Ditian was together with the Jialan clan. Let's see what abilities he has. The Lifefire Empyrean calmly spoke. Chapter 16-17. Ditian had always been famous in Lifefire City for his weaponsmithing. No one doubted his identity as a weaponsmithing grandmaster, but up until now, he had never fought before. It was only when he went to the Yen clan for the sake of fame did he fight a few battles. After that, he rejected Lu Feibai's challenge. Hence, the people of Lifefire City had no idea how strong Dtion's combat prowess was. Right now, there were hundreds of experts on the towering platform. All of them were supreme emperors from the major powers of Lifelong City, as well as the 9 world palaces. As for ordinary immortal emperors, even if they were at the peak stage, they wouldn't dare to go up casually. From this, one could very well imagine how brutal the battles would be. Under such a situation, even if the people of Lifefire City thought highly of Dtion's strength, it was impossible for him to stand out. A mid-stage immortal emperor like him could only be cannon fodder. On the contrary, they hoped to see one person. That mysterious person who defeated the 4 governors consecutively, including Xiaoyu. However, this mysterious existence didn't appear. For the battle today, we will stop here. As long as one side concedes, the battle will stop immediately. The rules are very simple. All of you will stand at the periphery and casually step out. You can challenge anyone you want, and the last 10 remaining will be the top 10. The protector of the Realm Lord spoke to everyone. There was no need for him to say anything. Everyone already knew the rules. The rules of this spar were very liberal and wasn't that strict. Under the eyes of the Realm Lord and other experts, no one would be able to play any tricks. It was very easy to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. Other than the ranking of the top 10, there was no need to do so. If one couldn't win, they would be eliminated. At this moment, a resplendent light suddenly shone from the towering platform in the center. A translucent barrier of light appeared in the surroundings, forming a gigantic formation that protected the platform, preventing the shockwaves from the battle from spreading outwards. A battle between peak-stage immortal emperors would naturally cause ripples to spread far and wide. Hence, this towering platform was like a supreme formation that protected the entire area. At the periphery, many beams of light appeared, transforming into a circular barrier that could envelop a single person. If the participants were to stop their battles, they could sit inside and watch the battle. There was no need to worry about being affected by the shockwaves. Everyone stepped into the hall. Hundreds of people entered the hall. That fellow Diton, why must he do this? Jialan Yuntian sighed. His cultivation base is at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. He would surely become the target of others. As long as he fought against him, he would surely lose. Why bother? Maybe there would be a pleasant surprise. Jialan Yunhai laughed. There might be. Maybe he can jump levels to fight, but that's only against ordinary peak-stage immortal emperors. But in this place, there are so many Empyrean peak-stage immortal emperors. How can he jump levels? Jialan Yuntian shook his head. It wasn't that he looked down on Dtion. In fact, he was very confident in Dtion. If this was a mid-stage immortal emperor battle platform, he was even willing to believe that Dtion might be able to enter the top 10. Sadly, this wasn't the case. On the platform, a person walked out. This person was at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, and was an expert from the Sword Spirit sect. Dtion had met him before in the Jialong clan of Lifelong City. After he walked out, his gaze immediately landed on Dtion. Back then in the Jialong clan, there was an expert from the Sword Spirit sect who tried to act against this person but was almost blinded. Now that they encountered each other here, it was clear that this matter had to come to an end. Although it wasn't Dtion who appeared that day, it was his original self. But to Dtion there was no difference. Hence, when he saw the gaze of his opponent, he knew that he had to participate in the first battle. Since you are a weaponsmithing grandmaster, why must you appear on the battle platform of the martial path? This place isn't suitable for you. That peak-stage immortal emperor from the Sword Spirit sect coldly spoke. His gaze was extremely terrifying, like sharp swords that could pierce through one's soul. Qin Wentian has already fought against 2 experts from the Sword Spirit sect before. One of them was even Xiaoyu. Qin Wentian naturally understood what the Sword Spirit sect was proficient in. His eyes were as black as ink as he calmly spoke. Whether it's suitable or not, it naturally isn't determined by words. This fellow. Jialan Yunhai stared at Dtion. The one who challenged him is Xiao Mo from the Sword Spirit sect. His strength is extremely powerful, and although he can't be compared to a supreme character like Xiaoyu, it's more than enough to defeat ordinary peak-stage immortal emperors. Jialan Chui's beautiful eyes flashed with worry. Jialan Yuntian glanced at her and smiled. Don't worry, even if Dtion is defeated, his life won't be in danger. He knows his limits. Who's worried? Jialan Chuyue blushed as she denied it. Jialan Yuntian smiled but didn't say anything. His gaze turned back to the towering platform in the center. Hundreds of experts stood at the edge of the platform. Only Xiao Mo and Di Tian from the Sword Spirit sect stood in the center of the battlefield. Xiao Mo's eyes were as sharp as swords. He had a cold smile on his face as he stepped forward. His soul transformed into sword intent, directly piercing into Di Tian's eyes. Sword qi gushed forth, capable of annihilating souls. Qin Wentian cultivated the undying scripture. His avatar Di Tian was naturally the same as well. The undying scripture focused on the soul. It wasn't a type of law energy. Their hearts and minds were connected, and there naturally wouldn't be any problems. Xiao Yu's sword soul couldn't do anything to Qin Wentian. How could Xiao Mo kill Di Tian's soul? He also turned his gaze over. His holy will transformed into a sword soul that directly shot into Xiao Mo's eyes. Between their gazes, there seemed to be a terrifying clash of energies. Bang! Xiao Mo's eyes flashed as a resplendent light shot forth. He stepped forward as strands of sword souls manifested in the air, all of them rushing into Di Tian's body. Although the sword souls weren't as powerful as Xiao Yu's, they were still extremely terrifying. Di Tian's black robes fluttered in the wind as his black hair danced in the wind. His eyes abruptly changed, becoming even more terrifying, resembling an incomparably pitch-black vortex of sealing. Boom boom boom. The pitch-black vortex of sealing abruptly appeared in the air, directly sealing the sword souls within. The sword souls struggled violently, but the vortex of sealing shot out from Di Tian's eyes grew more and more terrifying. It was like a pair of eyes of sealing had appeared in the sky, unceasingly radiating a terrifying sealing energy, causing the sword souls to have no way to break free. The entire space trembled violently. This entire space gradually transformed into a world of sealing. Not only did it want to seal the sword souls, it wanted to seal Xiao Mo's own strength as well. When the terrifying sealing light blasted into Xiao Mo's body, the sword light radiating from Xiao Mo's body shone resplendently, trying to resist. However, the sealing light directly enveloped Xiao Mo's sword screen, sealing the entire space within it. Gradually, Xiao Mo's body was being devoured, sealed bit by bit. If this continued, Xiao Mo's entire body would be sealed as well. I admit defeat. Xiao Mo roared. He could no longer sense the astral law energy descending upon him. His resistance grew weaker and weaker while his opponent's strength grew stronger and stronger. If this continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Tian's eyes gleamed with a terrifying light as the boundless sealing law energy instantly dissipated. Everything returned to normal. Xiao Mo's countenance was like dead ashes. From the start to the end, Di Tian didn't even make a move. He merely released his astral law energy from his eyes and Xiao Mo was already defeated. How humiliating was this defeat? What's even more terrifying was that his opponent was merely a mid-stage immortal emperor. This simply caused him to have no face to continue staying here. With a flash of his silhouette, Xiao Mo lowered his head and fled from the platform. He simply didn't have the face to see anyone. The people from the Sword Spirit sect stared at Di Tian, their expressions extremely unsightly. Their Sword Spirit sect's disciple Xiao Mo actually suffered such a miserable defeat. It was very hard for them to have a good impression of Di Tian. Not simple. The spectators all sighed in their hearts. As expected, they mustn't underestimate any geniuses. A mid-stage immortal emperor directly used sealing arts to suppress Xiao Mo from the Sword Spirit sect. The people from the Jialan clan were all stunned. Jialan Yuntian was even more dumbfounded. He felt that he was already very optimistic about Di Tian. In his heart, he did have a trace of hope for Di Tian's victory. But such an ending still caused him to be stunned. Xiao Mo actually couldn't even withstand a single strike from Di Tian. Such a disparity, whose cultivation base was higher exactly. Was Di Tian really just a genius weaponsmith grandmaster? How ridiculous! Even if his identity as a weaponsmith was removed, Di Tian was still a character at the peak, able to easily display his glory. Seems like I've still underestimated him. Jialan Yuntian sighed. He cast a deep glance at Jialan Choyue, hoping that she would be able to walk together with Di Tian. At this moment, Jialan Choyue's beautiful eyes also froze. She thought back to the words Ditian said when she sent him off. She suddenly felt more and more curious about Ditian's appearance. His strength caused her to be pleasantly surprised. In that case, his appearance should also be as handsome as he said, right? The people from the Jialong clan stared in the direction of the Livefire Empyrean with interest. And as expected, the Livefire Empyrean's expression turned unsightly when he saw this scene. His subordinate Xiaohou was the same as well. It's just a single victory, it doesn't count for much. Xiaohou coldly spoke. Beauty Xiao, who was at the side, smiled but didn't say anything. This Xiaohou must be extremely unhappy in his heart. Not far away, Lu Feibai's expression grew even more unsightly. Back then when he challenged Grandmaster Ditian, the Lu clan once spread the news that Ditian didn't dare to accept the challenge. Now it seems that Ditian really didn't dare to accept the challenge? Maybe Ditian simply couldn't be bothered to accept the challenge. From the start to the end, this Ditian had always looked down on him. A genius of the Lu clan. When he thought of this, Lu Feibai clenched his fists tightly, feeling a sense of humiliation. Ditian himself didn't have the time to care about the thoughts of others. He returned to the light screen at the border of the Livefire Empyrean, and very swiftly, more and more people walked out to challenge others. As more and more intense battles erupted, this grand banquet of the martial path was about to begin. This was especially so for those peak-stage immortal emperors from the peak powers. They could be said to be unrivaled in the immortal emperor realm with terrifying combat prowess. When they challenged their opponents, they could insta-kill them, simply tyrannical to the extreme. In such a battlefield, even Ditian felt waves of pressure gushing over him. Chapter 16-18. Because Ditian won the first battle, easily defeating a peak-stage immortal emperor from the Sword Spirit sect, no one else challenged him. After all, no one was willing to fight against powerful characters too early. Although, even if Ditian won this battle, they didn't think that Ditian would be that powerful. But at the very least, it shouldn't be a problem for him to be in the top 100. And there were several hundred people here. Even if all of them were discussing the battle, it was enough to guarantee Ditian's safety. Everyone would choose an opponent they had more confidence in. Unless there was someone intentionally targeting Ditian. Time slowly flowed by. Ditian continued to spectate and saw many powerful characters that were worthy of his attention. Although those governors didn't participate in this battle, they still couldn't be underestimated. There were many of them, and they were all characters from the peak powers of Lifelong City. Finally, as the violent battles continued, the number of figures on the light screen at the edge of the platform decreased. There were only a few hundred people left. As for mid-stage immortal emperors, there were almost no traces of them left. Only 3 of them remained, and all of them were extremely powerful mid-stage immortal emperors. If not, they wouldn't have survived until now. When there were only 100 people left on the platform, there was a momentary pause. No one stepped out. This was a free-for-all battle, one could choose whether to step out or not. If you were too weak, you wouldn't be able to evade. But if you were very strong, there was no need for you to step out. Naturally, no one would dare to act against you. Even if there were, when you were challenged, you could directly crush your opponent. Right now, those who remained on the platform all felt that they were extremely powerful elites. None of them were willing to step out to challenge others. This was why the current situation was like this. 3 mid-stage immortal emperors, it's time to leave the battlefield. Are you guys still not coming out? Are you waiting for others to challenge you? A tyrannical voice rang out. The person who spoke was an expert from one of the peak powers in Lifelong City, the Skylaw sect. He was extremely powerful and had a well-proportioned physique, resembling an unshakable war god. Before this, he had participated in 2 battles. For these 2 battles, he only used 1 move and 3 moves respectively, injuring 2 peak-stage immortal emperors. It's the Black Hand Immortal Emperor, an Empyrean-level immortal emperor from the Skylaw sect. His strength can be ranked within the top 30. Seems like he is preparing to eliminate the 3 mid-stage immortal emperors first. Someone spoke in a low voice. Since the Black Hand Immortal Emperor said this, I think the other 3 mid-stage immortal emperors would be the first to be eliminated. Ditian's eyes flashed as he glanced at the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. As for the other 2 mid-stage immortal emperors, a cold light flashed in their eyes. One of them spoke. Who says that those with lower cultivation bases have to leave? Given your cultivation bases, many people have already given you face for being able to reach this stage. When you all break through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, you might have a chance to display your brilliance on the battle platform. But right now it's still far from enough. The voice of the Black Hand Immortal Emperor was cold. The other mid-stage Immortal Emperor coldly laughed. Since this is the case, I will have to seek guidance from the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. After speaking, that mid-stage Immortal Emperor stepped out, actually challenging the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. The eyes of the Black Hand Immortal Emperor were extremely cold. After that, he stepped out and stretched out both his palms, which actually turned black. Devil might gushed forth frenziedly as numerous black arms manifested, like illusions. Bolts of black lightning manifested in the air as tens of thousands of arms danced about at the same time, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The Heaven Luo saber of the Heaven Luo sect is infused with devil attribute energy. It's incomparably tyrannical. The hearts of everyone trembled. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor also had a heavy expression on his face, although he couldn't help but step out to challenge the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. In truth, he also knew how terrifying the Black Hand Immortal Emperor was. This was especially so when he faced the Black Hand Immortal Emperor head-on. When he saw the gigantic black arms, he felt a sense of apocalypse. Are you sure you want to fight? The Black Hand Immortal Emperor's voice was cold to the extreme. The tens of thousands of black arms enveloped the area, resembling an inescapable net. Countless devil sabers of darkness gleamed with destructive light, wreaking havoc in the air, tearing apart everything. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor stood there with an unsightly expression on his face. His body was trembling. He regretted his impulsiveness earlier. Only when he truly faced the Black Hand Immortal Emperor did he truly understand how strong he was. I admit defeat. It was like he had made an extremely difficult decision. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor spoke. The destructive light in the air instantly dissipated, like it had never appeared before. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor glanced at Tian and the other mid-stage Immortal Emperor as he coldly asked, "What about the two of you?" The expression of the other Immortal Emperor changed, turning extremely unsightly. Tian also frowned as he calmly spoke, "Do you like to meddle in other people's business?" The Black Hand Immortal Emperor glanced at Tian as black saber light flashed in his eyes. "Scram out here." Tian frowned. After that, he slowly stepped out. Everyone sighed in their hearts when they saw this scene. Seems like the Black Hand Immortal Emperor wanted to expel the three mid-stage Immortal Emperors from the battlefield first. Mid-stage Immortal Emperors are ultimately still too weak and would be easily targeted. Although he domineeringly defeated the Sword Spirit Sect's Xiaomo, causing no one to challenge him for a long period of time, he still wouldn't be able to escape. Jialan Yuntian spoke in a low voice. Maybe there might be a pleasant surprise? Jialan Chuyue spoke in a light voice. Before this, she also felt that Tian wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. But after that battle, her confidence in Tian grew by a lot. Hence, she started to have some fantasies. It's difficult. This time, it's the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. He isn't Xiaomo. In this battlefield, the Black Hand Immortal Emperor should be able to enter the top 30. Jialan Yunhai spoke. He had a deeper understanding of the major characters in the lifelong realm. This Black Hand Immortal Emperor was an extremely powerful character in the Skynet sect. How could he not know about him? The Black Hand Immortal Emperor was far stronger compared to Xiaomo. In fact, one could even say that the two of them weren't on the same level. If Xiaomo had the combat prowess of someone in the top 100, the Black Hand Immortal Emperor had the combat prowess of someone in the top 30. The disparity was simply too great. Jialan Chuyue's lips twitched as she stared at the battlefield ahead. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor had already acted the moment Tian stepped out. When the black arms shot out like a heavenly net, even the wind and rain couldn't penetrate through. Many people were stifled. Seems like this Tian's words had clearly offended the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. He wanted to be ruthless, not even giving him a chance to concede. Xiaoho coldly laughed when he saw this scene. Using the Jialong clan to come to Lifelong City. Wanting to become famous? How can it be so easy? Tian inclined his head as a dazzling light flashed in his eyes. The The terrifying eye of Sealing shot out resplendent sealing light, transforming into a law domain that sealed this entire space. In an instant, a terrifying sealing energy manifested above Dtion, sealing this entire space. That fearsome destructive saber light directly slashed downwards, yet it only slammed into the sealing energy, shattering it unceasingly. Dtion stepped out as boundless runic light flashed in the air, revolving around him. Very swiftly, Dtion's entire person was enveloped by the sealing energy, as though he was trapped in an abyss. When the Black Hand Immortal Emperor shattered the sealing energy, Dtion actually didn't hesitate to rush towards his opponent's terrifying attack. At this moment, when the boundless destructive black lightning blasted down, it actually directly sank into the sealing abyss. Dtion's palm blasted out a sealing gate. This sealing gate was filled with astral light and was incomparably deep. It seemed like there was a 10,000-meter space within it, and all attacks that fell into it were all sealed within. Go! Dtion blasted it out. The sealing gate directly shot into the chaotic killing intent of the Heaven Net dimension, shuttling through the raging wind and torrential rain as it expanded unceasingly, devouring all the attacks and seals. It was like a bolt of lightning shooting towards the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. The eyes of the Black Hand Immortal Emperor flashed. He gathered boundless astral light as devil might towered up into the sky. Another Heaven Net saber art slashed out, wanting to destroy everything in this world. There was no truly invincible power. Although this sealing gate looked terrifying, as long as the attack was strong enough, it would definitely be able to shatter it. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor had cultivated for so many years. He didn't doubt this at all. Just like what the Black Hand Immortal Emperor had expected, the powerful attack slammed down, shattering the sealing gate. However, this wasn't the end. Dtion's eyes turned incomparably terrifying, directly boring into the Black Hand Immortal Emperor. Saint-level sword intent directly pierced through him, accompanied by soul attacks. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor's entire body trembled violently. After that, he saw a pair of gigantic eyes of sealing as the sealing energy from the attacks continued to corrode his body. He roared loudly as a violent devil might ravage the heavens and earth. His saber light slashed out once more, wanting to destroy everything. However, Dtion's silhouette flickered, evading the terrifying saber attack. His eyes were still fixated on the Black Hand Immortal Emperor, causing his energy to weaken unceasingly. Domain. Dtion roared. The eyes of Sealing sealed this entire space, cutting off the astral light. The countenance of the Black Hand Immortal Emperor turned extremely unsightly. Dtion was slowly devouring his energy bit by bit. Boom! Exuding an extremely violent might, the Black Hand Immortal Emperor soared through the air, appearing before Dtion. His many illusory arms slashed out at the same time, causing the entire space to be filled with deathly lightning. However, at this moment, a terrifying demonic might erupted from Dtion. It was like a supremely powerful greater demon had awoken. The shadow of the Xuanwu tortoise appeared, protecting him, allowing the attacks to land on him. Dtion's eyes of Sealing continued to attack unceasingly, causing the Black Hand Immortal Emperor's strength to grow weaker and weaker. Pucci! A fearsome bolt of holy will penetrated through. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor screamed in misery as blood flowed from his eyes. His defenses were instantly destroyed, and after that, the sword intent ravaged his body, causing it to tremble uncontrollably as blood flowed out from his wounds. I admit defeat. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor screamed in misery. Dtion retracted his attack, and after that, the body of the Black Hand Immortal Emperor slammed into the ground, emitting a heavy thud. Why the need to jump out? Dtion's eyes were as deep as ever. He glanced at the Black Hand Immortal Emperor on the ground before he turned and returned to his seat, as though nothing had happened at all. However, the impact of this battle to the spectators was truly immense. This battle meant that Dtion had a chance to enter the top 30. In fact, he even had a chance to enter the top 10. In the following battles, there would surely be no one who would dare to challenge him. Chapter 1619. The Black Hand Immortal Emperor was in an extremely miserable state. His cultivation base was terrifying. The famous Supreme Immortal Emperor of the Skynet sect was heavily injured. He staggered down the platform, forming a stark contrast to his earlier arrogant attitude. The victor Ditian was as calm as ever. It was like defeating the Black Hand Immortal Emperor was an insignificant matter. There was nothing to brag about. He closed his eyes and meditated, not bothering about anything else. At this moment, the gazes of everyone changed when they stared at him. They knew that this man was someone they mustn't antagonize easily. The people of the Jialang clan in Lifefire City were all dumbfounded. Too powerful, so powerful that it surpassed their expectations. Was this really that Grandmaster Weaponsmith Ditian who had never acted before? His combat prowess had actually reached such a level. Grandpa, do you think he will be able to enter the top 10 and obtain the Realm Lord's reward? Jalan Chuyua's beautiful eyes gleamed even brighter as she asked Jalan Yuntian. Jalan Yuntian was speechless, he didn't know what to say. The top 10 was naturally difficult, it was simply too difficult. There were at least 10 to 20 terrifying characters from the peak powers here, and they were all popular contenders for the top 10. It was extremely difficult for a mid-stage immortal emperor to contend against them. However, he had already made 2 wrong predictions. Could he really treat Ditian as an ordinary mid-stage immortal emperor? Every time he felt that Ditian couldn't do it, Ditian would always give him an intense surprise, using absolute strength to prove his strength. In that battle earlier, the Black Hand Immortal Emperor seemed to be the victor for sure. He was a supreme immortal emperor from the Skynet sect. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that Ditian, a mid-stage immortal emperor, had no hope at all. But what was the result? Right now he couldn't be certain anymore. He couldn't help but to bitterly smile and shake his head. I don't know. The battles continued. Other than Ditian, the other mid-stage immortal emperor was soon eliminated. Other than Qin Wentian, the rest were all peak-stage immortal emperors. In addition, there were some existences who had already locked onto the top 10 rankings. For example, Xinyuan, Heavenly Dipper of the Xinyuan clan. His heavenly protective barrier was incomparably tyrannical, capable of transforming into 10,000 weapons to attack. He was like an undefeatable war god. Although given his strength there was no need for him to step out to challenge others and no one would dare to touch him, he still stepped out several times to temper his strength, suppressing his opponents with a single strike. There was also the Divine Dragon Sect's Heavenly Dragon Saint Child. He could be said to be terrifying, able to summon heavenly dragons to fight. His power was boundless and he was undefeatable. Jianyi of the Sword Spirit sect was someone who was equally famous as Xiaoyu in the past. His combat strength was extraordinary, but he was much older than Xiaoyu. Hence, he didn't have the title of a genius like Xiaoyu. The Violet Sun Immortal Emperor, the disciple of the Poison Saint, Young Noble Seizing Heart, the Young Master of the Sun Moon Villa, the disciples of the Setting Sun Academy's Book Saint, all of these Empyreans were extremely powerful. There were immortal emperors who had cultivated for many years, as well as supreme geniuses of the immortal emperors. Every one of them was extremely powerful and was believed to be able to get into the top 10. If one wanted to get into the top 10, they would have to trample on them to advance. One could very well imagine the difficulty. After Ditian domineeringly defeated the Black Hand Immortal Emperor, no one else dared to challenge him. Gradually, the number of people on the battle platform grew fewer and fewer. After so many battles, only 30 remained. However, at this moment the battle had also reached its climax. Every clash would cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. If not for the great formation protecting the stage, the might of the battle would have spread to the vast area of the Immortal Palace. He's in the top 30 now. Jalan Chuyua actually felt a sense of nervousness in her heart. Ditian only used 2 battles to enter the top 30. If one of his participants was eliminated in each battle, there would only be 15 participants remaining after a round of battles, and they would only be a step away from the top 10. Unless Ditian encountered a situation where he was continuously challenged by others. In that case, it could only be said that his opponents all felt that he was weak. Another battle erupted. Only 29 participants remained on the battle platform. At this moment, an imposing figure akin to a divinity stepped out. His body was extremely large, transforming into a giant. His eyes were terrifying to the extreme, gleaming with white light. Every step he took caused the entire platform to tremble. The gatekeeper of the ancient tomb Holy Mausoleum. In Lifelong City there was a mysterious sect called the Ancient Tomb Sect. Experts were as common as the clouds and they resided in the Holy Mausoleum. The person before them was none other than the tomb keeper. Normally it was extremely rare for him to come out. But now, because of the grand banquet this time around, he actually came to participate. The eyes of the tomb keeper flashed, directly landing on Dition as he spoke. "You come out." The gazes of everyone froze. Among the remaining participants, Dition was definitely a unique existence. His cultivation base was the lowest among them, only at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. But even now, he was still able to remain on the battlefield and wasn't eliminated. This could already be considered a miracle. Right now, the tomb keeper actually challenged him. This mid-stage immortal emperor should have already left the battle platform, right? When they thought of how powerful this tomb keeper was, an expression of interest appeared on the faces of everyone. What would happen if he fought against Dition's sealing arts? Dition stepped out only to see that the tomb keeper didn't say anything. The tomb keeper's eyes turned white as emperor light cascaded down from the sky. The white light transformed into boundless petrification law energy, and in an instant, everything turned to stone. Dition only felt his body growing increasingly stiff, as though he was about to be petrified. Terrifying law energy circulated around him, blocking the corrosion of the petrification energy. However, the petrification law energy that cascaded down from the sky turned the entire space into stone. It was like a gigantic boulder had completely enveloped the space Dition was in. That white eye was simply too terrifying. It was capable of petrifying everything. A thunderous rumbling sound rang out. The tomb keeper stepped out, causing the space around him to tremble. He lifted his gigantic palm and blasted out a punch towards the petrified space before him. This punch caused the space around him to tremble, causing a thunderous boom to ring out. The petrification caused a terrifying shockwave, wanting to destroy Dition's body as well. How tyrannical was this? Jalanchuyua's countenance instantly turned pale. Before this, she still held an intense hope, hoping that Dition would be able to create a miracle and kill his way into the top 10. But when she saw the tomb keeper truly acting, only then did she understand how terrifying these remaining participants were. Right now, she only had a single hope: Dition was still alive. This strike was sufficient to shatter the petrified space, capable of shattering everything, including Dition's body. The petrification space continued to crumble as the law energy in it surged. Within it, a figure slowly appeared. He was in an independent sealed space and actually managed to seal himself within, not shattering. The eyes of the tomb keeper flashed. The white light in his eyes grew even more terrifying as he shot towards Dition. A pair of sealing eyes appeared behind Dition, absorbing the light from the constellations. Boundless sealing light shot out, clashing against the petrification energy in the air. The laws of petrification and the laws of sealing clashed against each other. Crisp cracking sounds rang out unceasingly as the area of petrification expanded unceasingly, wanting to completely envelop the space Dition was in. As for the laws of sealing, they transformed into a terrifying grand sealing formation that fought against the petrification energy. When the tomb keeper saw that he couldn't do anything to Dition, he stomped on the ground and punched out, shattering everything, shattering both the laws of petrification and the laws of sealing. His palm grabbed through space, incomparably tyrannical, directly transforming into a giant spirit hand that grabbed towards Dition. The laws of petrification instantly petrified the space under the attack of the tomb keeper. Dition's law energy soared up into the sky as a sealing gate appeared, capable of devouring everything. Within it, the terrifying palm imprint was sealed within as it blasted towards the tomb keeper. At the same time, a terrifying spatial diagram flew out from his body, sweeping through the air, transforming into a gigantic diagram of the heavens and earth. This diagram was complete and was like a supreme emperor weapon, sealing this entire space. Emperor light frenziedly cascaded down on the diagram. This was the light of sealing, yet it was able to isolate the petrification law energy of the tomb keeper. The tomb keeper inclined his head and roared in rage. Boundless sound waves rocked the space, destroying everything in its path as they blasted into the diagram. However, the terrifying shockwaves seemed to have been sealed as well. Boundless sealing light radiated from the diagram, frenziedly extending outwards. The tomb keeper discovered that it was getting harder and harder for him to control the laws of heaven and earth. This entire space was filled with the light of the great Tao, sealing all the law energy in this space. He roared loudly and directly lunged towards Di Tian. Clearly, he knew that he had to end this battle as soon as possible. If this continued, it would be extremely disadvantageous to him. How could Di Tian give him a chance? The sealing gate appeared once more and flew forward, wanting to seal the tombkeeper within it. The tombkeeper didn't fear it at all and continued to attack frenziedly, forcefully shattering the sealing gate. However, the sealing light that cascaded down grew more and more intense, starting to corrode his body. He inclined his head as his eyes gleamed with the light of petrification. He was no longer able to block the might of the tombkeeper. The tombkeeper is about to lose. Many people silently mused when they saw this scene. Great waves rose in their hearts. Di Tian's sealing abilities were actually so powerful to such an extent that even the tombkeeper of the Holy Tomb couldn't do anything to him. Just like what everyone had predicted, the tombkeeper continued his attacks. Di Tian was merely trying to exhaust him. Finally, the tombkeeper gave up and admitted his defeat. He was incomparably dispirited. For this battle, Di Tian was still the victor. A mid-stage immortal emperor once again displayed his overwhelming combat prowess. Compared to his weaponsmithing techniques, Di Tian's combat prowess wasn't inferior at all. Xiaoho's heart trembled. The eyes of the Livefire Empyrean also gleamed with a strange light. Di Tian was so powerful. If this continued on, he might really be able to enter the top 10. Next, the battles continued to erupt. Every single battle would result in someone being eliminated. Di Tian's victory over the tombkeeper once again shocked many people. After another round of battles ended unknowingly, there were only 15 people left on the tall platform. As long as another 5 were eliminated, the top 10 would be born. Jialan Yuntian's heart trembled. He spoke in a low voice. Maybe, he only needs one more battle and he would be able to enter the top 10. Top 10? Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. Next, more battles erupted. What caused the people of the Jialan clan to be shocked was that there was still no one who challenged Di Tian. In the blink of an eye, only 11 participants remained. The 11 participants on the platform all fell silent. No one took the initiative to step out. If there was no one who challenged Di Tian, he would directly enter the top 10. There wouldn't even be a need for a single battle. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.